Okay, it's 6:30. We'll call the meeting to order. This is the Committee of the Whole, Public Works, Environmental Services, and Facilities meeting dated Monday, November 16th. And I'm looking for approval of the agenda. Can I have a mover, please? Mover with Councillor Hunter and seconder Deputy Mayor Deschamps. All in favor? Thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Hearing none, thank you. Now, business arising from the previous Committee of the Whole meeting minutes, if any. That's in your package on page 127. Hearing none,
Is it just questions in regard to? It's not just approving minutes, it's
no, this is business arising.
And just through the chair to Mike, is there an update on where we are with the boat launch?
Through the chair to the deputy mayor, the order was placed 2 weeks ago Thursday, and it was a 3 to 4 week delivery time. So my plan was to touch base with them Thursday or Friday of this week, in anticipation of having them delivered next week.
Okay.
Thank you. And that was my question as well, so Councillor Hunter.
Just to carry on with that, we're expecting delivery in a week or so. Have we, through the chair to Mike, we got the site prepared, ready to place them?
Through the chair to Councillor Hunter, Public Works will be doing that later this week or the first of next week.
Any other concerns or questions regarding the minutes? Okay, we're going to move on, thank you. Okay, we're at number 5, which is delegations and presentations. And tonight we have with us Mr. Pat Marcoux from the Johnstown ATV Club and committee. As you know, a few weeks ago, staff was directed to speak with Mr. Marcoux or the Johnstown ATV Club regarding changes to the legislation on ATVs and other equipment. So, Pat, it's your turn at bat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my name's Pat Marceau from the Johnstown ATV Club. I'm the president, been president since 2015. So yeah, this presentation's in 2 parts. The first part being the new proposed amendments to the Ontario Highway Traffic Act Regulation 31603. So the new act, or the new proposed amendment, I should say, is allowing Argos and off-road motorcycles onto roads. So there's 2 concerns that we see with the ATV Club is safety and the insurance. Right now, with our Off ATV Club, our trails are not insured through Off ATV for these units. Okay, and so yes, there's unmaintained road allowances off of roads, but we have a lot of private trail sections with private landowners, and where the insurance applies more so, and a lot of these landowners do not allow off-road motorcycles on these trails. So that's a concern. The Argos do not meet the ANSI standard. So not like a side-by-side where there's a roll cage, there's rear view mirror, there's seat belts. Argos do not have that. So if they were to hit something solid, they could eject off of the Argo. And they're quite wide as well, and take up a lot of room on the trails as well. So these are our concerns with allowing this to go through onto be implemented into the bylaw and allowing them onto the roads here in Edinburgh. I don't know if there's any questions for me pertaining to that. before I go any further.
Question here, Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Well, through the chair, first of all, you used the word proposed changes. Our understanding is that the act has been changed and the regulations have been changed. I'd like to have that clarified by the clerk.
Through the chair, the changes have been amended. There will be additional amendments to the Highway Traffic Act in regards to what ATVs are allowed on the roads. So currently, the bylaw which we have, as well as the legislation, we only permit where we want them to go. In future changes, everything will be open unless we don't permit them on specific roads. But the ATV, ORV changes have been implemented, but our bylaw hasn't updated that, which is why we've asked for feedback.
No, but going back to the main issue. The main issue is that the legislation is now changed so that all of these groups of vehicles, I think there's 6 different types now, are all permitted on road right-of-ways unless we forbid them. So, if we do nothing, they're all permitted. And they can all be on our roads. Now, what happens on the trail network is none of our concern. And similarly, insurance is none of our concern because it's now it's a provincial jurisdiction, is it not?
Through the chair, that is correct. We asked Mr. Marceau to come because a lot of the trail networks, they are connected through our township roads.
Yeah, but that doesn't affect us in any way, shape, or form. They don't even have to use their trail network now. They can go wherever they want, from Johnstown to hell and God, on the provincial highways.
Correct, unless the council sees fit to change that and make
Right.
it within the bylaw.
Okay, so, and I thought what Mr. Marceau would be addressing was that issue and how he felt about that issue.
Oh, through the chair, yes, I apologize that that wasn't clear. So that is, it's, you know, they're gonna use the roads, right? And it's a safety aspect, right? Having these vehicles on the roads. But they're going to use all the unmaintained road allowances which pertain to our trail system, right? And that's the thing, we have concern with our landowners. A lot of these off-road motorcycles have aftermarket exhaust, they're very loud. And so that's just gonna be another complaint that's gonna come forward. And so we don't want them, you know, on the roads or on our trail system, kind of thing. So that's, I don't know if that was clear enough of what you're looking for.
So through the chair again, so in order to address that objective, what would we be required to do? To the clerk.
Through the chair, in order to address that, we'd have to update our bylaw and prohibit specific ORVs on township roads and road allowances.
Okay, now, if we prohibit them on township roads, that does not prohibit them on either the county roads or the provincial highway right-of-ways.
That is correct.
Okay, so all we would be doing would be prohibiting them on county roads, except for the sections that we've already approved.
So we'd be only regulating the township roads and road allowances that we own.
You said county roads. You said county roads.
Oh, okay, well, misspoke then. We would only be keeping them off township roads and limiting them to the sections that we've already approved.
Is just a question regarding county council. Is county council going to look at this in any way, shape, or form?
Not that I haven't seen any indication of that at all. I think county council is just gonna, the new legislation is just gonna go ahead and that'll be that. There's been no nobody has served any notice of motion or even put it on an agenda for discussion.
Thank you. Carry on,
Okay. So yeah, so the legislation did go through, it's just, as was said, we need to restrict access according to what's in the bylaw currently, right? So, to the other old ORVs. As you can see on the map here, the green trails are the ones that we have land use agreements with or an MOU. And so that's where, you know, a lot of these other vehicles here might wanna venture on the trails. Going on to the next part of the presentation here is I'm also, the club's also asking for some extension to different road access to join our neighboring club, Nation Valley ATV Club, near South Mountain. And to extend some areas around some bypasses down on Rooney Road and Jordan Road to get around some beaver activity that we have going on. And the trails are pretty wet, so if we can use some of the roads to get around to join up some other trails there.
so you're looking for an additional 16.5 kilometers.
With everything added up, Mr. Chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay, okay, but just going back to the first part of your presentation, I'm under the impression that your organization is not for having these new designated vehicles
No, that's
on our roads,
correct.
because they could possibly get to your roads, or your trails rather.
That's correct.
Okay.
You're feeling my pain.
Yeah.
I think we're on the same page here. I'm watching you and I think you're hearing the same thing I am.
So,
Well, then you talk.
Yeah, all right. So I think, through the chair, if I
Go
may,
ahead.
we don't need, the way that I see it, we don't need to grant access to any of the roads because that's already covered in legislation.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying, but I think what we wanted, or why we maybe asked for there to be a presentation was to help us understand the changing legislation and how and what we could do to help increase trail riding and decrease issues that may come from every road in our township now being allowed to be driven on by ATVs. Is that fair?
you're correct in saying that, yes.
I think that's more, like, for me, that was more my interpretation, because I mean, once the legislation passes, right, the problem I think that we have, or that we face, is that no longer is it we permit use on certain roads, it's that we would have to take away permission
Yeah.
for them to be
Yeah.
not driven anywhere, they're allowed to go everywhere now. That's at least the way that we're interpreting. Maybe I'm speaking for everyone, but at least that's the way that I'm interpreting.
I think your
Its device
interpretation,
privacy contents have been updated. To continue.
Sorry.
I think your idea is bang on. Counselor?
So basically, the map you have up here now, all these roads that are highlighted
In block, yeah.
are the ones that you will have access to. We deny access to all the rest.
So currently, through the chair, this is, the block is, except for where the red bubbles are, the lettered bubbles,
Yeah.
those are the ones we do not have. The rest of the block is what we do have. And it was through some bylaw changes in the past. Now, with this legislation, like, if it's, currently there is a bylaw, so in order to amend the bylaw, we have to request additional roads. If there was no bylaw in place at all, then yes, it would be all roads. But currently, there is a bylaw in place, so now we have to amend the bylaw, because right now it's stipulated that we can only use certain roads. So to extend it to, you know, A through G is all that we're asking in addition to the current bylaw.
But this, through the chair again, this map you have up here now is the map that you're gonna present if we amend the bylaw. This is the map you're gonna give to anybody coming trail riding. These are all the trails you're permitted to ride on.
There's a few little minor changes in the green, but the black is all been approved already.
Yeah, but if we approve what you want, this is the map.
Yes, yeah, there's also a quad on that OFATV has been using, very similar to the snowbill application that they have on mobile devices. So OFATV has the same, so we can turn on and off, you know, so we can close the trail section if we need to, if there's a hazard on the trail. If it's not possible, we can close it, we can open it, and I can do that within, you know, 5 minutes. So it's very, very active, but this is the map that I think will be in the bylaw itself.
So that's what basically I'm asking is a simple way for us to do a bylaw is, this is the network, and we just deny access to any road that's not highlighted in this access that we own.
Mhm.
And that clears us and deny motorcycles and to be using on.
That's the problem. And just to follow up, Councillor Hunter, is right now, your club has use of these roads that are in the black with the bubbles on them. You can use these under the law now, correct?
My understanding is not, like the ones with the bubbles, we cannot use them, Mr. Chair.
With their permission from us,
With the permission from
with their
the
permission.
township, yes.
Changing the bylaw.
Then we can change the bylaw.
No, I'm under the impression that the legislation now says any four-wheelers, including these other new ones, can use these roads.
If there was no bylaw in place.
I'm not under that impression.
Clerk.
Thank you.
Sorry, Rebecca.
So currently it's 31603. Whether or not we have a bylaw in place allows them to use permitted sections that we currently have in our bylaw. There is another amendment coming through regulation that hasn't received royal assent yet. That will be changing the permission for road use. There's two different things going on with the Highway Traffic Act. The types of ATVs and ORVs, that's already received royal assent through the province. The changes to when they can use and how they can use and what roads they can use hasn't received royal assent. They're expecting that to happen to open up the network for everything. They're thinking January. So we have two different things going on. That's why we're seeking clarification from Mr. Marceau, as well as we'll be needing clarification from council as to whether or not you want to open the networks completely open and not regulate it, or have it similar to what we have now in a bylaw, where we can restrict what goes on, what roads and what road allowances. Similar to what we do now, we just have to reword the bylaw.
So is there any idea when this bylaw is going to come forward to be reworded?
We're hoping to see what happens in January, whether or not that receives royal assent.
I see.
We haven't had any complaints through the ATV club as to improper uses. Again, it would be enforcement through the ATV club, and then if it's a complaint that happens on one of our township roads, it would go to the OPP.
Which
Deputy Mayor?
So under the, just so that we're clear, under the new legislation, if we choose to open all of the roads up, or if they automatically become all opened up, enforcement isn't in our bylaw hands, it's the OPP that does the enforcement of it because of the Highway Traffic Act?
Correct.
Okay, now, I'll go back to you, Pat, and just, if you'd just like to continue with your presentation. We are limited to 10 minutes.
Seems to be,
Which-
yeah,
Yeah,
creating some
there,
confusion.
there's some
Lots of
confusion.
confusion.
Yeah,
And then listen,
so,
Yeah, so it's, again, just working on the current bylaw that we have, if we can maybe extend it, with the A through G bubbles. This will connect us to Nation Valley. With our winter grooming as well, we groom this part of the section of the trails. And then Nation Valley also grooms their winter trails as well, so we connect it. And then we stay off all the snowmobile trails, so we connect real nicely. So that's why we want these new add-ons.
the Nation Valley, just let me interrupt for a moment. The Nation Valley Club is located where?
Winchester,
Winchester, okay.
yeah. So they cover around
Yeah,
Kempville and.
Yeah,
South
I
Mountain.
can see where the connection might come in. Okay.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, okay, thank you so much for your presentation. As I explained earlier, we will, as council, take your thoughts and concerns under advisement, and when we are doing our bylaw changing or work on it, these will be a pivotal ideas.
can I ask
But there is one more question.
Mr. Chair. Pat, thank you for your presentation. You made reference definitely to Argos and off-road motorcycles and their use of the trails. Our concern is going to be those on roadways. So you're recommending, or at least you're going to be restricting their use on your trails?
Yeah, through the chair, currently, they're not allowed on our trails.
Do you anticipate being, allowing them or no?
No.
No. So, if I may, you're obviously the trail expert. Would your recommendation to us be to, if that's an option for us to limit their use on roadways, would that be your recommendation as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, no more questions? Okay, thank you again. Sorry.
So, I'm having a little bit of trouble here. With this new legislation, assuming that the second part of it gets royal assent, which is opening the whole network, right?
Correct.
You would automatically get A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Automatic. There's nothing, the provincial legislation overrides our bylaw. Our bylaw becomes null and void at the time that this provincial regulation gets royal assent. Our bylaw becomes null and void. So you get everything you want, everything that you've got, plus everything more. So, I don't understand, I can see the concern about the different types of vehicles, but again, if the province is not that concerned about them riding on county roads or township roads or provincial highways, that overrides us. So, I can't understand why we would put into an effect a bylaw which would give you access to our roadways and deny the others which have a right by provincial legislation. They will have a right by provincial legislation to have access to all of our roadways.
unless we have a bylaw.
But why would we do that for one club and not for
Yeah.
another?
Well, that's a council debate, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for the answer for. Cause this adds 16.5 kilometers to what you already have, and I couldn't find my notes from the other bylaw, how much you already have, but there's quite a number of kilometers that are already, of our township roadways, that you already have access to,
Yeah, I think it's around 51 kilometers.
around 51.
51.
So 51 plus another 16.5. So where do we get off at favoring one club over another? Or one group of riders over another group of riders? Your rider of choice is an ATV, but some other guy likes likes motorbikes.
It's through the chair, for us, it's the insurance, right? So we bring in a $50 million liability insurance for any use of trails, unmaintained road allowances or off-road trails, or the MOUs or lease agreements that we have in place with the landowners. And the thing is, it doesn't cover the other groups, the Argos or the off-road motorcycles. So they'll end up on those sections, and it's gonna be, yeah, it's not good for the landowner.
If they go on the landowner's land.
That's correct.
The other side of that coin is, are these vehicles, are they licensed? Do they have to be licensed?
They have to be licensed as soon as they touch any roadway. Yeah, that's
And I'm sure.
So then the insurance
And insurance.
situation is not, I'm sure they're gonna have to have insurance to get a license or to drive on the road. The
As soon
insurance you're referring to is for your trails.
it's third-party liability, so if a rider goes through a planted field, right, then the farmer can put in a claim, and then we'd cover that. Or if, a machine catches fire, burns half down, half the forest down, then the landowner can put a claim in, that sort of thing. But the insurance for the actual rider, yes, they're supposed to get insurance as soon as they leave their private property.
So I guess then my question, after that answer, my question is, how are you guys gonna keep them off your trails?
We have our trail wardens that are out there that are educating the folks that, that they're not allowed on there, and we have some landowners that are closing up the gates, which is impeding our trail system, and so we're losing sections of trails because of these riders.
So these answers that you're giving us are all answers we have to take into consideration when we change the bylaw, if we change it. And I think Councilor Dillabaugh wants to come in.
Well, I just have one clarification with the mayor, Mr. Chair, is if it gets passed on January 2021, the mayor says any bylaw we have is no good anyways. Is that right?
Yeah.
Until we change, I think they're giving us the option to have a bylaw to counteract their royal assent.
You're saying it overrides it.
Their legislation grants access to all roadways.
Yeah. Right.
So that overrides our bylaw that grants access to specific sections. The only bylaw that we would be able to introduce is a bylaw to say, we don't allow ATVs on any of our roadways except these.
Right.
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 Just the same bylaw, just reword it instead of commit,
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
All it is. But
Exactly.
As far as favoring one group over another, the reason for it is I think our ratepayers. A lot of them aren't even happy with the amount of trails the club has now to run motorcycles or four-wheelers on. And I know a lot of them are landowners and farmers definitely don't want dirt bikes allowed on the road, because they don't stay on the road. I got enough fight with them over the years in the quarry and stuff that once they get access to come down the road, the police can't stop them from coming down. They're just down the first time they think you're not home, they're off into the woods and off into the pit and ripping around causing trouble, so. Most of the four-wheelers, from what I've seen, we've had trouble with the odd group that's come out of North Dundas, but most of the trail riders here are pretty respectful about staying on the trails and I guess say, most of them aren't young lads that are running these four-wheelers. Most of them are adults with young families and stuff that are running with quads and stuff out there that are just out for a nice family ride. And I have no problem with them, but.
The responsible ones.
Problem with these other ones,
So through the chair, so you wouldn't have a problem making the distinction then?
I wouldn't have any problem making a distinction between them. I don't think most of the ones that run recreation vehicles have much of a problem making a distinction between them. They've got certain places they can run. They can run up in Limerick, they don't stop them from running up there. And you know the word and the trouble that they're causing up there, so.
Oh, no, everything's perfect up there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
People fall off horses and get broken arms.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's all perfect.
Torn up trails.
Horses going wild.
Yeah.
Mr. Bush or Mr. Packwood, do you have anything to add here?
Just one comment. Even if the township had the authority to limit these dirt bikes and Argos on the township roads, what's stopping these guys from taking a trailer, going to these trails and going down the trails?
That's their police.
That's not our problem. But I think that's what you're looking at, is that the township would pass it, so they don't have the problem. That's my feeling.
Yeah, well, it helps them, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Gives them a leg up on enforcement.
Okay, again, thank you for that, and this will be taken under advisement and consideration for future use. Again, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our discussion items, and we're at 6A, and that is County Road 21, County Road 44 speed limits regarding Spencerville. Now, I believe this was brought up by a resident of the Spencerville area at one of the meetings, and you don't have a briefing note on this, so who is going to speak to this 6A?
Mr. Chair, I believe that Councilor Hunter raised this item up under council inquiries,
Oh.
and that's, so.
I'm sorry, I didn't have that. Go ahead, Counselor.
It's been brought up different times to me by ratepayers, and I'm sure it's been brought up, I know, to the mayor too as well. County Road 21 coming in from the west into Spencerville, where they lowered the speed limit to 50 kilometers an hour all the way back to the extreme other edges of the village of Spencerville. There's been numerous, almost head-on collisions with people passing the ones that were abiding by the 50 kilometer an hour speed limit, and continuous tailgating and flashing of lights and blowing of horns behind people because they're driving the speed limit coming all the way in, because it's been lowered so low from what it was an 80 to all of a sudden dropped to a 50 from so far out with very few houses and stuff up that way. I could have seen, and a lot of the ratepayers could see, that if they put the speed limit at just a little bit west of Beverly Street, where the subdivision entrance is coming out, but they backing it off that far, they could have maybe observed, seen the point to that, but to put it clean up to Clary Road to come in at 50 kilometers an hour. They just don't see any sense to being that far back and being there that nobody's obeying the speed limit, and also talking to a lot of people that go to the Home Hardware. The 50 kilometer an hour speed limit sign was put west of the Clary Road exit coming into Spencerville. People come up and pull into to the Home Hardware and the feed store, which is very busy, turn out on the road and head down. It's always was at 80. There's no sign right there that says it's 50 now. They never even think about it until they're coming into Spencerville. And oh gee, that was supposed to be 50 all the way in there. At the very least, they should have put another 50 kilometer an hour sign down just outside the hardware store entrances, that when people are pulling out, know they're pulling into a 50 kilometer zone. When you have a zone that's been that way forever and all of a sudden it's dropped to 50, people just don't realize it, so.
But I think it was dropped to 50 at the urging of some residents, that the speed limit was too high.
From what I've understood, it was dropped at the urging of only 2 residents, so I don't think we can listen to residents, but you gotta listen to the whole township as well. And I don't think they're asking for it to be dropped to 50, cleaned up far. Most of them are looking for it up to about Beverly Street, where they're turning to into Beverly Street, not all the way up to Clary Road. And I know the excuse was, well, there was going to be an accident because of the auction house there. We got permission to put no parking signs up on the far side. That's what everybody was worried about, because they're parking on both sides. It wasn't as much the speed as that they're parking on both sides, and they're worried that being coming over a hill, that people were walking back and forth across the road, that there were going to be a serious accident there. Well, now when they can't park on one side, and Marshall Auction did a great job of cleaning up their parking lot and allowing more cars into the parking lot and stuff there, but they're only on the one side. That was false red herring as far as I was concerned, saying that they had to lower it a way back just because of the auction house. And let's face it, the auction house was one day a week. It was on a Sunday.
So on County Road 21 West, you're looking for the speed limit to be reversed to 80 in certain portion,
I didn't see that 50 backed off to the hill at Beverly Street.
I see.
There, get rid of it back that far. It's too far out.
Okay.
And for the other end of 21, where you're coming in, we've had all kinds of complaints. We've had 3 or 4 accidents, I know, on 416 access coming on to 21. A lot of it's people's fault coming off. They don't stop coming on. But at 80 kilometers an hour all the way into the stop sign, like it should be down to 60 back at the overpass. People break over that hill, and it's an 80, so they're doing 90. People coming off that off ramp, coming on to 416. You don't have much chance of coming out. You look, people edge out, and they're looking one way because they stuck a sign right there that you got to edge right out to see by the sign where anybody's going east, and then they start out and people break over that hill at 90 kilometers an hour and come in, and like right after the access there, you got the access into Lennox Drive. You got four houses on one side, 3 houses on the other side right there. There's kids in 3 of those houses there. The school buses pick up at 3 different places there. I think it'd be sensible to have it 60 from the top and overpass in and out the other way from Baker Drive in 60, so.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. You've given us an update. Any questions for Councillor Hunter?
Now, I want to make a few comments here, because I think we have to be very careful here because of the mixed messages. I mean, first of all, the county runs a pretty sophisticated county roads department. Engineer in charge, as the director of Public Works, and 2 engineers that are responsible for sections. I think one's in charge of Leeds and the other's in charge of Grendel. And, you know, the bombardment that's coming at county council is really crazy. You know, Councillor Hunter refers to the fact that we have to listen to our residents, and I know we do to some extent, but when residents are complaining that, you know, it's dangerous for the kids, you know, this may sound awful cruel, but it's parents' responsibility to keep the kids off the roadway. We also gotta consider the driving public. The driving public has paid money for their licenses. They have a right to move along county roads at a reasonable rate of speed. And the engineers determine what that reasonable rate of speed is from the geography of the road. And, you know, what's coming forward at county council is a resolution from this council to change it from 50 to 40, and another resolution to change it from 60 to 50, and another resolution to change it from 80 to 60. And now, we're starting to get resolutions just along the lines that Councillor Hunter is referring to. This is ridiculous. Change it back. And, you know, the public, the driving public is starting to be heard here. And Councillor Hunter is absolutely correct. Coming in from Cleary Road into Spencerville on County Road 21 at 40 kilometers or 50 kilometers an hour is just not reasonable. And we're getting requests for 40-kilometer limits on County Road 2 between Cardinal and Prescott and Brockville. You know, I mean, and we got sections of it that are already limited to 40. It's getting nuts.
Believe me, I know.
40's crazy.
Number
So-
2 soon gonna be 50 all the way from Quebec border to Toronto.
Well, I mean, and all I'm saying is, you know, let's get our messages straight here, because, and I agree with you, you know, that maybe westbound into Spencerville on County Road 21 over the overpass, maybe it's a bit fast, but, you know, let's not ask for one thing on that section of the highway and another thing on a different section. Let's try to get the messages straight here, because I'll tell you, the engineers at county council are pulling, and so are county councilors, pulling their hair out. And in some cases, we require a resolution, the county requires a resolution from the local municipality. And in other cases, the mayor stands up at a county council meeting and says, well, the mayor of such and such a town asked me to reduce it from 50 to 40 in my township coming into his town because his town is all 40. And so now the engineers go running out to determine whether or not they should be changing it to 40. And you know, it's getting a bit nutty, to tell you the truth. But I quite agree with the point from Spencerville, and how that ever got extended out to Cleary Road is beyond me. It seems to me that, well, I mean, again, a lady made a presentation at county council and everybody listened to her. One lady, 2 kids, you know, living just on the west side of Spencerville. And county council's a sucker for that kind of a pitch, you know. Nobody will say, well, ma'am, you know, you really should be trying to keep your kids off the road.
Well, I'm just afraid if we don't do something with, I'd like to see something done with the overpass coming on there. Granted, that's the driver's fault, because a lot of them don't stop.
Yeah.
Coming out there, but the other side coming in, like, they're doing that to save accidents, and I'd be very surprised if in the next 6 months, if there isn't a major accident there with a head-on collision with people pulling out to pass somebody because they just get fed, they're the other side of Beverly Street, and the guy's still putting along as they consider it 50 kilometers an hour, and they just swing out and go by, and there's a car coming. So I know you had the email, I had the email from a couple of residents that almost got hit head on 2 or 3 times now. Now people passing coming over Beverly Hill, they're swinging and it hasn't solved the problem, it's made the problem worse.
Yeah, but I think we have to be careful, and I agree with you, but I think we have to be careful on what our ask is. Let's just ask for one thing, and let's put it in the form of a resolution, make it very clear.
Well, I can live with the other one, but I really can't live with that 50 all the way up there, so.
What about County Road 44?
Well, if they were doing a traffic study sometime, I think they likely would say that needs to be backed off a bit there, but there isn't any houses there, it's just the access from the subdivision coming out on there, plus the fire hall coming out on. Hopefully, people still respect their fire crews when they're coming out, they stop for them.
Okay, so just to make it clear, your ask is that staff contact counties for
No,
a study?
prepare a resolution for us.
Prepare a resolution for council to go to the counties, is that correct? Does staff have enough information from what you've heard tonight to do that?
So through the chair, with respect to County Road 21 and County Road 44, we'll call it south of Spencerville, that information was relayed to the county for them to take a look at that area. So do you want a resolution to also include a change there along with the County Road 21 heading west out of Spencerville to Spencerville Home Hardware?
Let's go with the 21 West coming in, and see how we do with that, and then we'll see what their study comes up with the other one.
So they're already going to do a study for 44? Am I hearing that correctly?
We've asked the county to look at that,
Okay,
as was mentioned at the CDC meeting.
Okay.
Under the question period.
thank you. So the resolution then is only for County Road 21 west of Spencerville regarding the low, the 50-kilometer speed limit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you all. We'll move on now to 6B, discussion item, and it is regarding public garbage cans within the village of Cardinal. I brought this up at the last meeting to be on the agenda. And the reason for that is that I've been approached by several people because the garbage cans have been removed, especially from the area of the square, the village square. I want to refrain from using the word parkland at Bridge and Dundas, but it's at Bridge and Dundas, the square where the garbage cans were there all summer, and now all of a sudden there is no place to put refuse except on either on the sidewalk or on the grass. So there would be a request for a receptacle there, as well as in the area of the post office. It seems that is a cluttered area as well. I do understand the concerns we have regarding the winter time of garbage receptacles. However, as was pointed out to me, trash and garbage have no seasons. So that's open for discussion. I'd like to hear from the table regarding that discussion. And I'll start with Mr. Bush at your end.
I'm not exactly sure the parkland that you're speaking of, but.
Well, it's really not a parkland. It's the corner that has a grassed area
Okay.
in the village of Cardinal.
I'm in agreement, like, make it a clean place,
Thank you.
if we can put something there.
Mr. Packwood?
Likewise.
Councillor Hunter?
Well, I can see them being there in the summertime, I just wonder in the wintertime, where actually are you gonna locate it with the street clearing and the snow plowing and stuff there and snow, how are we gonna maintain these? They can't be an open garbage can, they're gonna have to be a closed lid garbage can.
They'd have to have a lid,
Can or
yes.
something to keep the snow from coming in it.
Yep,
They're gonna be, fine to have them there, if there's some way we can maintain them, if they're not gonna cause more trouble than they actually succeed good. If you get a garbage can on the road that gets hit by hard snow going over and knocks it upside down, you got a half a can of garbage blowing around.
yeah, the area in concern is quite large. There's lots of room for a receptacle to go there. It could either go on the grassed area near the sidewalk, or on the paved, not the road area, but the paved area.
If it's there, it's gotta be shoveled out, somebody's gonna have to keep it cleaned out, people can get to it, or.
Well, we do, yeah, we do clear the sidewalks in that area with our machine, so it can be off to the side. So, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts. One is that, we're working towards, beautifying our township. In the summer, we wanted to do yards of the week and, respect people, taking a great pride in the ownership of their properties, and I think continuing to provide people with places to put refuse, no matter what the season, is a good thing. So, be it may that it's, we have to find a spot for it. Yeah, maybe that's an issue, but the garbage will find a spot if we don't find a spot for it. So, in that sense, certainly in that area that you've described, I think is an issue for sure. One other area that I see this year that may need a little more attention than in past years as well is certainly the arena locations with more people staying in their vehicles while their kids are in playing hockey in the arenas. While they may get out of their vehicle and go to the arena door to deposit something in a garbage can at the arena door. And I hope that people don't litter and they take it home with them and get rid of it at home. But I think we're gonna see an increase around the parking areas in those arenas with garbage as well. So I know they're out in the Cardinal area all summer because of the ballparks, but if something can be, again, maybe an issue to find a spot, but garbage will find a spot if we don't. So, wanting to continue along that path all seasons with the beautification efforts and not just give it up.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Well, it bothers me that we just take the cans out, all of a sudden they're gone. But I sort of distinguish the seasons, and I can understand in the summer that we use 45-gallon type containers, standalone containers that are sitting on the sidewalk, and we place them strategically. I can understand that. I think we have to be a little bit smarter in the wintertime. I worry about anything that's standalone, and I don't think it needs to be 45 gallons. I think that we can use smaller containers, and maybe we can find places to hang them so that they're not in the way and impeding the snowplow efforts. And I can't remember the geography all that well, but I think I do know that, for example, there are utility poles that maybe, and I know they don't like us hanging anything on the utility poles, but maybe for the winter season, they would allow us to use 3 or 4 utility poles with smaller containers. And again, it doesn't have to be 45 gallons, a small container that will hold 4 or 5 gallons and be emptied once a week. In the wintertime, will replace, I think, a 45-gallon container in the same location in the summertime. Except for, as the Deputy Mayor has mentioned, the ingredient center, and I think he's bang on when he says people are in their cars, they're not in the arena, so they're in their cars, and they're gonna be looking for places at the doorway, where there's fairly good sized containers that they're gonna have to be attended to on a fairly regular basis, but I don't think we should be deserting the issue just because of the change in the season. I think we should be getting smarter than that.
Councilor Dillabaugh?
Mr. Mayor hit it right on the nose, we don't need a 45-gallon drum. You have to have it, you can't have it standalone. You have to have it hanging somewhere, even if we have to put posts in and leave them there 12 months a year. You can go to other towns and villages and see the same thing. They're not standalone, they are mounted on posts or whatever, and they're up this high, very easy to change it. Lift the top, take the bag out, and off you go. So, and I think it's something you should look at year-round and get away from the 45-gallon drums. And maybe put more down there on Dundas Street and on the corner there in the post office, so.
Thank you. As a matter of fact, I'm just gonna call on staff for a recollection here. At one time, was there not, outside the library, a basket hanging on a telephone pole or a street pole?
So,
I thought several years ago there was, but I can't be sure.
so through the chair, I will, this topic has come up several times, and I guess I have a fair bit of history with respect to garbage bins on Dundas Street by the post office and other locations. And it's always been a challenge with staff. It's interesting to say that putting it on the hydro poles or whatever the case may be, and it will last a week. Out in front of the post office, you would be there daily. We were sometimes there twice a day with respect to those being overflowing. Right, so that was removed many years ago for that same reason. It just, you were there all the time. One of the other reasons that we reduced the amount of garbage cans in that winter time is that typically that's something that the recreation and facilities do seasonally, but once we're into that winter season, they're pretty much committed to the arena facilities. So that may be a challenge. And I anticipate that if it's filled up on one day, we're not going to wait a week to empty it out on a weekly basis. So I think it's just some things that committee should consider if they're wanting to increase the access to garbage cans.
I see. Okay, well, and of course I brought the subject up, so I am certainly in favor of the cans being there. So, we've gone around the table and I think you've got a consensus that the majority of the committee are interested in having garbage cans put out for the winter. So I have to ask staff, really, where do we go from here? Does staff bring a resolution forward?
Well, I would say if the committee direction is that you would like additional garbage cans placed, my assumption is you're speaking simply within the Village of Cardinal, within the Dundas Bridge Lewis Street area?
Correct. Correct.
So if the committee would like to direct that.
Well, also the arena area, the parking area around the arena was brought up as well. And I see Mr. Spencer wants in, so
Sure.
Go ahead.
If I may, Mr. Chair, the Ingredion Center has currently 4 cans that are currently still out. 2 at the arena, 1 across the street where the play structure is, and actually there's 2 across the street at the second ball diamond. And they're still left out and they're checked once or twice a week.
Okay, thank you for that. So is your
They're the
intention to leave them there?
45-gallon ones there, at those locations.
Okay. And is your intention to leave them there throughout the season?
Currently, right now, yes, they will. Typically, we wouldn't leave the ones out across the street in the ballpark area, but because of the fact that their parents are not able to be in the rink as much, we've left them in for now.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Go ahead.
The problem with the post office, is it just because people have junk mail and they want to get rid of it? Or would an answer be that the post office put out a recycling bin for junk mail?
Point of information.
Yes.
The post office removed their container that was under the bench for that very reason.
Yeah.
They removed, because they couldn't keep it, we couldn't keep it empty.
So that's basically where we're gonna end up, same position.
What is, sorry,
Go ahead.
Chair, is there any way that, like what we have at the park here, the nice wooden box, and it has the garbage and the recycling attached to it as well? And if we could do something like that, then you have your paper, your spot for your paper, and
Absolutely, that, all these ideas are there, correct? Now, what happens at the post office is they just leave them on the table now. So, anyway,
Just to
go ahead, Counselor.
I think we need to find some way to look after some of this garbage, but without also keeping in mind sometimes our best intentions lead to bad results. Because I know last term of council I was on, we had a lot of complaints about garbage, and we had suggestions, we put garbage cans at the ends of different roads and stuff to put their garbage in, and within less than a month, I believe, Mr. Mayor, we had ones calling us to take those darn garbage cans out of there, because everybody was just coming and just, I'll just take it up the end of the road and throw it in the garbage can, and they were just overflowing. And you gotta be careful where you put these garbage cans, because they just become an attraction, and the first thing will cause more trouble than they save.
I'm well aware of that issue and that concern. So. Okay, so I'm going back to staff again. Do you have enough information to bring something forward?
Not really. So I guess, Mr. Chair, if
Okay.
does the committee want us to return with a plan and an approach and some options?
I think that is the feeling of the majority of the table, to go ahead and do that. If the garbage cans are going to be left at the arena level, we are only talking the Ridge Street, Dundas Street area. And probably, a guesstimate on my part would be 2 to 3 receptacles would probably suffice. Okay, we okay on that? We'll move on then. And that is we're now at 6C, which is the Cardinal Crosswalk Poppy dedication. And this, again, that's one of my inquiries that I brought up. And I got in your package, you have a page with photographs on it of 2 different styles of poppy on sidewalks. And I believe this was in the village or the town of Swift Current, Saskatchewan. And this was brought to my attention from the Legion in Cardinal, and wondering if the township could do something similar to this in the coming next year, possibly starting in September, having these poppies on our crosswalks. This is, and I understand that our staff does not do very much in the way of line painting. We contract some of it out, and perhaps the person that has the contract can look into getting some patterns or templates for these poppies if the committee feels inclined to do this. Now, this isn't just, or doesn't have to be necessarily just in the village of Cardinal. It can be throughout the township, such as crosswalks in Spencerville or Johnstown, as well as the village of Cardinal. However, I'm not familiar with crosswalks in either Spencerville or Johnstown, so I'm just pointing that out, that the feeling from the Legion is that our crosswalks could use this. And I'll start with the committee at the far end, Councillor Dillabaugh. Your thoughts?
I think it's a great idea, Mr. Chair, and I think, I'm glad that you brought up other. I think it'd be great with the crosswalk across from the Cardinal Legion, or the Spencerville Legion down here too. So, unfortunately, we don't have any crosswalks in Johnstown, but I definitely would think it'd be nice to get one across there.
I thought there was one by the school.
From the, well, small one, but, I would like to see one down here across from the, Legion of, Spencerville too.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Well, at first blush, it looks like a great idea, but unless it's kept fresh, it's going to soon deteriorate and look bad. And so you have an ongoing maintenance problem. I think it's a great idea. I don't know what the cost would be, because again, it's not the kind of thing that we have the equipment or the manpower to do it, which means it has to be contracted out to somebody. And that means that you have to contract out not only the original artistic work and the original installation, but you have to sort of contract out on an ongoing basis, unless there's some way to do it just for
Just for a
October
period.
and November.
Yeah, October, November would be.
Then how do
it's
you
always-
erase it?
You
You
don't
know,
have-
because if you don't erase it, it just looks bad as it deteriorates. And you kind of, I think a nice fresh coat of paint on a poppy on a side, on a crosswalk looks great, but what's it gonna look like 3 months from now?
May have to do it a couple times a year, Mr. Mayor. I mean, that's why they're trying to do it, it's not for Remembrance Day, it's not for the October, November. They wanna remember year round, that's the whole purpose of this.
Okay, so then it's gotta be maintained on a regular basis.
Exactly,
Correct.
that's the whole purpose of this, it's not just for November, it's for year round.
Well, let's look at costs to start with,
We
Mr.
should,
Chairman.
yes, we should. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, so, sure, I certainly love the idea. I had actually forwarded it to staff for some input, as well before you put it on the agenda. Mr. Eakin, I think, is who,
Correct, yes.
who had brought forward, when I look at the cenotaph, when we had Remembrance Day this past weekend, you both were standing on the walkway. I was a considerable distance behind you, but what a better, especially for that Cardinal cenotaph, to have a veterans walkway, that has poppies down the walkway. That way it's only, people walking, it's not car traffic on Highway 2, it's our walkway. Cost, sure, yeah, definitely an issue for sure, but I think, we also paint lines on the arenas every year. We also paint parking spots, throughout the township every year as well, and if painting 12 or 15 poppies a couple of times a year needs to go into the budget, then I'm all for that as well. It's a small thing we can do to, show our respect to the veterans. But I will say this as well, and it was Mr. Eakin that brought it forward, so it leads me to believe that the Legion would be in support of something like that. But I also think it might be worthwhile reaching out to the Legion to make sure that they're interested in having something like that done as well, because if they're not.
They are,
You know.
that has been done.
Okay, so.
Counselor Hunter?
Well, they look, really like, along with the mayor, they look nice when they're first done in a crosswalk, but I think they look beautiful, but, I'm questioning how do we maintain them and keep them looking like that, and what's gonna be the continuous cost to try to keep them looking like
Find out.
that, and we run into the problems of, with other crosswalks getting deteriorated and marks over them and stuff that makes them look worse than if they weren't there in the first place, so I kinda like the deputy mayor's idea of having them instead of on a crosswalk, on a walkway. The traffic's not gonna be running over them all the time. It'd be, probably, I don't know just where we do it in Spencerville to get it. Natural spots to have a crosswalk by the Legion right now. Spencerville's crosswalks are wherever you feel they cross them, so.
Take your life in your hands.
But, I think we'd have, first try, thing would be to look into the cost and maybe reach back to the town that started these in the first place with an email and ask them what their maintenance level is on them, what type of paint and stuff they use, and how long are they running into problems with maintaining them, or is this something that they just did this year and they have no experience with how long they are maintaining, so. But they look great, I think it'd be a great tribute to the Legion, that we could find a walkway, or in Spencerville, maybe if we didn't have a walkway, maybe we could talk to Legion and do it on the sidewalk in front of the Legion, rather than on the
Correct.
traffic.
Good. Mr. Packwood?
I think it's a very nice idea, but I can't see it on the roadway. Because you look at the rainbow ones on Highway 2, all the yahoos driving the cars, they love to spin their tires on those things.
They do, yes.
So to me, I think it's a waste of time, but I do like the idea of the sidewalk at the cenotaph. And if we could find a place like the sidewalk by the Legion in town, I think that makes a lot of sense. Because then you don't have all that heavy traffic on it.
Okay. Good. Mr. Bush?
I think I'm kind of with Deputy Mayor Deschamps there. They're really nice. It goes along with the beautification process that we're trying to do. For Spencerville, I would suggest that where the clock tower is, there's that little path. Maybe they'd just be a little bit smaller. I'm not sure. But that's somewhere that they only get foot traffic. Yeah, check on prices, I think.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so could staff reach out to a contractor to see what kind of pricing we could do this for, and perhaps a letter off to the town of Swift Current to see how they maintain and what and how it's going in that area, and bring that back at a future meeting as we go forward.
Certainly, we can look into that, Mr. Chair, but, can I ask a couple
Certainly.
questions with respect to that,
Sure.
of what the full intent is, because I'm looking at it as something that's visible and that recognizes the sacrifices, you know, throughout the year, not simply just on Remembrance Day.
Correct.
Might I suggest that committee at least consider some type of, a few banners that could be placed at each cenotaph area that would be visible to drivers and walkers. You avoid or you minimize the chance of defacing, And it's probably, the upkeep, it's low maintenance, and should the banners start to fade, they get replaced. So just putting it out there for consideration, and instead of just, narrowing down to this idea, which is a neat concept. It's just, I could see it being high maintenance and maybe expanding out, where you could look at it, banners out in front of each cenotaph, that high traffic areas that are visible.
Yeah,
So-
and Mr. Ciao, thank you for that. That is also a wonderful idea. However, if we do have the desire and the concern to look into pricing and perhaps reaching out to the town of Swift Current, when you bring that other report, include the banners in the report as well. I do like the idea.
So just to be clear, Mr. Chair, when we bring that report, try to provide several options for the committee to consider.
Perfect,
Okay.
perfect. Yes, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on, and the next discussion item is township permit parking. And I brought this forward, and I want to make it very, very clear that perhaps the word permit in there may be the wrong word, because permit is always associated with dollars and cents. And the idea here is certainly not exclusively that thought train. I was approached by some people regarding parking, off-street parking, and on township property, and they were advised that they should not be parking there, which consequently brought this subject up. In the village of Cardinal, and it's probably the same in other areas as well, or could be the same in other areas, but for now, we're just more or less dealing with the situation in Cardinal. There are several families in Cardinal that either have a driveway that is very small, or no driveways at all, or the need for off-street parking. The township does not supply the residents of the village with any off-street parking, other than, I think it was discussed, the parking lot across from the old Benson School, which is now owned by Ingredion. People do park there, and I'm sure it's with permission from Ingredion. So that being said, we do have an area near the library and the old arena parking lot that could be used if we were to set aside a few spots, and the number of spots is minimal. We'll say anywhere from 6 to 10 spots that could be set aside for off-street parking for people that need to park there. I refer to the smaller driveways within the village of Cardinal, which there are several. If people had company over the holiday season or a holiday season through the winter, and where are these people to park? This would alleviate that problem. I do know even a family member of myself does not have a driveway. However, arrangements have been made with a neighbor to park there, so that's fine. Up until the time when the neighbor sells the house and the new owner says, no, you can't park there. There is no off-road parking supplied by the township. So this is why this is brought forward. And my suggestion, and of course this is all open for debate and conversation, would be to allow X number of spaces, and the area be signed that permission has to be given from the township to park here, and people could park there. They would be responsible for the snow removal of their lots. However, if the township felt that it could run a truck down in front of the parking spaces to make a clear getaway, then that would be welcome as well. So that's the idea behind the whole thing. We are getting now, we're in the season where off-street parking does take effect, and you're not allowed to park on the streets in the village of Cardinal. So I'm going to open it up for discussion and dialogue, and I'll start with Councillor Dillabaugh.
I don't know how you can enforce it though. I mean, you got 6 or 7, you say, and what is it, first come, first serve, or is it?
It could be, however, as I did say, that the township would have to give consent for a certain person or person to park there. We don't have to charge a fee, or we could charge a fee, again, that's all open for discussion. As long as it's, the spots are there. If there's only 10 spots, then it becomes a first come, first served situation. I don't think it would ever reach that, but it could, I guess, so.
Yeah, I just have a problem. I don't know how you would enforce it. I mean, I guess, like you said, first come, first served, but I mean, if I was in town.
All the township needs is to issue some kind of identification to remain on the car that the permission has been given. That could be a letterhead, that could be a logo, that could be just something that the township, you get permission to park there, here's this thing to put on your car.
Is there that much of a need in Cardinal? Like you're saying 6 or 7. Is that?
I think I said 6 to 10.
Okay, 10, 6 or 10?
Yeah, well, I know of 4 right now.
Okay. I'm just thinking like, that big parking spot at the Boar's Nest, could you talk to them about
Oh, that's,
something?
that's a location as well.
You know? Or
That's,
have-
that's certainly a
Or have the
location.
individuals if there's a problem, and you have and you also have the fencing school, is that what you said?
No, we don't own that
Ingredient-
property.
No, but the ingredient does, and you're saying that they're getting permission
I think
to
they
use
are.
it?
I think they are. I don't know.
I'm for it, but I mean, I think there's other areas you could do, and, you know, for us not even to get mixed up in this.
Well, what about more than one area?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
No, I'm good.
Deputy Mayor? I'm sorry.
That's this side.
You gotta turn your head,
What time is it?
you gotta turn your head.
What
Well,
time
it's not
is
even
this?
past 8 yet.
You have just been demoted.
That happens after 9.
I think I was looking at it, but I said you did. Mr. Mayor?
So, I just wanna relay an issue. So in a previous life, when I was on a different council, we did not allow any of our employees to park on the main street. And the way we solved the problem, we developed a parking lot in the area behind the main street that consisted of about 30 parking spaces, 15 of which were electrified, you could plug your car in, and 15 of which were not. Then the council said, okay, to the Main Street businessman, they're $100 a year. You can tell us which spots you want, first come, first serve. So I had 6 employees, I bought 6 spots, $600 a year. It gets the employees off the main street. We have the same situation here, except they're not employees. They're folks that are living in boarding houses, as I understand it. And that's, you know, I think we have to accommodate them. I can think of at least 3 locations within the town, within the village, and it seems to be only a problem in Cardinal, not so much a problem in Spencerville. But I can think of 3 locations in Cardinal where there's municipally owned land, municipally owned paved land, where we could have 4 to 5 spaces. These spaces can all be numbered, and we can sell permits. And either we sell them by the year, or we sell them by the 6 months to accommodate the winter season. I put a price on them, $75 or $100 for the season. It's a cost recovery thing. And all it takes is a sheet of paper about this size, or a plasticized sheet that says township parking, in, parking spot number 7. And that's, stays on the dash of your car overnight, or wherever you leave that car in that spot. And the spaces that I'm thinking of, we can make it very clear to the people that have the permits, you know, we're gonna be snow plowing, we'll plow this lot, at such and such a time, at the time of a snowfall. If your car's there, we'll plow around it, you have to get it out. If your car is gone, we'll plow the whole 6 spots. But to me, it's not a difficult thing. I think it should be done on a cost recovery basis. I think it should be done on actually, more than cost recovery. It's worth $75, that's what you pay. You pay a hell of a lot more than that in the city. But the point is, you gotta give people an opportunity to get off the street. And the particular situation which has been brought to my attention, there's no place else they can go. These happen to be on the north side of the canal, and the area right beside the library. And there's no reason that people, that residents can't pay $75 to have a spot there for overnight in the wintertime. There's half a dozen spots there. I just think we should ask staff for a report here and come up with a solution. Ask staff to supply us with 10 to 15 lots. And a report.
You mean spots?
Yeah, 10 to 15 spots. Make them available, make it widely available.
Thank you. Now, Deputy Mayor.
So, the reason that it's not a year-long problem is because people are able to street park all year long.
If you have a driveway or a street that you can park on.
Or a
Yes.
street,
Yes.
you can park on. So additions of, and I know, you know, we don't allow them, but, you know, portable sheds, portable garages through winter months won't fix the problem, or it won't help
Well,
with
we
the
don't allow
problem.
them.
It'll, exactly, but if we did, it won't fix the problem anyways, correct?
Correct.
I'm just thinking that, you know, somebody had to put one in beside their driveway, and they were to pull up and in, would it alleviate the issue through winter parking restriction times? I guess that opens a whole different can of worms. So, you know, agreeing a lot with what the mayor says, it certainly is an issue for a lot of people. But I'm sure the cost of it is probably an issue for those same people as well. You know, definitely I'd love to hear what staff would bring back in a report, because there certainly seems to be, if it's not now, it's certainly on the rise as, you know, people are moving out of the cities, moving into the towns. You know, real estate's selling like crazy, and they're not 1-car families anymore, they're often 2- and 3-car families now, so.
Councillor Hunter?
Well, I think we're opening up a real enforcement area if you try to start providing parking. I don't think we've got the staff to have the time to enforce it, so. This is an issue that seems to have come forward, but it seems to be over the last number of years, people have trouble finding off-street parking, but they all seem to have found it someplace. We haven't told anybody away, so I think it's up to themselves to find a spot. I think we're just opening up a can of worms here and try to start provide parking, unless you're saying like the mayor that you're gonna actually invest the money, taxpayers' money to build a parking lot, that you're gonna figure out that it's gonna be a cost recovery, you're gonna get your money back out of it some way, so I don't see how we maintain it and enforce it, so I think it's just opening up a can of worms.
Thank you. Mr. Packwood?
I agree with Councillor Hunter, like, there probably is a problem, but if we do something like that, then we give them parking places, then you can't expect Public Works to look after them, because it's gonna be a nightmare. It's gonna have to be something, if they have a parking spot, it's up to them to shovel themselves out and get out, just like if you're living at home. Because you're gonna interfere with maintenance work, It's not gonna work.
Mr. Bush?
I don't know, I'm kind of torn on it. I love the idea of having complimentary parking available. I can't remember who said it, but a lot of times it's lower income that have houses that, you know, they're just renting a floor or something and they just don't have space. But you definitely run into the problem of maintenance of the area for sure. And, I don't know, and for the permits, I don't know, like everyone has said, I don't know how you would, it'd be difficult to keep track of, and then I don't know how you would enforce any of it. It would end up being a load on our bylaw, I guess.
You see, my thoughts were if we charge for parking, we have to supply some service. If we don't charge for parking, we don't have to supply the service.
But then the service is useless if there's 2 feet of snow.
Well, what do you do when your driveway's got 2 feet of snow?
No, I agree, absolutely. But
So-
some may argue that it's our parking lot, so we need to look at it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing then is that we would like staff to look into this and bring back to committee a proposal, I guess would be the word, to answer some of your questions that you sent out in the briefing note. What is council's intent for a parking permit system? And my answer to that was either charge or don't charge for the reasons that we heard. Would the parking be issued for a specific season or year round? I would think year round. Proposed locations, and I have down the Old Arena area and the Boar's Nest area. 24/7 or only overnight, I would say 24/7. And enforcement complaint basis or proactive, and I would say actually complaint basis, complaint driven. However, I think if we charge a permit fee, then we are bound to have someone monitor the area. Cost recovery, well, that's either with charge or you don't charge. And the potential fee structure would be, well, I thought $5 a month, but whatever it was there. So with that being said, we've gone around the table and we've had some discussion on it. And could staff look into it and bring back some information or maybe I should say, how long would it take?
So if I may, Mr. Chair, if you'd like staff to bring back a report, we kind of need to know that there's consensus on whether it's year-round or seasonal, whether you're looking to charge or not charge. And the other part that does complicate this with respect to municipal parking lots, as per our current parking bylaw, that no overnight parking in any municipal lot, it's not permitted. So,
Correct.
So, so depending on which way you go, or which way committee or council decides to go, you could be looking into June or July in order to get that parking bylaw amended, approved through POA, and we've got a winter season. So depending on direction. So, you know, if you're looking at one particular municipal parking lot where you're going to designate that as a spot at no charge, and there you go. That's one thing. If you're looking at specifying limited spots, you know, some type of fee, some type of permit being required within the dashboard. They're kind of totally different things and a totally different timeline, to be fair.
Correct. And I live by the KISS designation, keep it simple. That's my feeling. Keep it as simple as possible. I think we have to get word back to some of these people to answer their concerns fairly quickly. And I would, I mean, if we have to wait until June, well, that's a long time.
Sorry, yeah, Councillor.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, before we go ahead and instruct our administration to go to this work, I'd like to see a vote taken who's in favor of going ahead to provide parking.
We can do that? We can do that? Certainly. All right. How would I word that? Those at the committee table in favor of supplying parking spaces for off-road parking in the village of Cardinal. I don't think I have to add anything more to that. I think that's pretty straightforward. I'll start with Councillor Dillabaugh.
I'm in.
Give it a
Mayor?
try, give it a try.
Deputy Mayor,
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what the report says.
Mr. Packwood,
I'm really not in favor, sorry.
okay, Mr. Bush,
Aye.
thank you, and I'm aye.
Councillor Hunter.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss?
I'm nay.
I'm sorry, Councillor Hunter. I jumped right over you, I'm so sorry.
That's 2 bottles of whiskey you owe me.
Jeez, whoa. Well, I got an idea what I'm gonna give them. So, again, okay, so we have 2 nays and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yays? Or
No.
5?
5-2.
5. It's 5-2.
So so just to be clear, you'd like to report back at the December 7th committee meeting?
If that would be possible, yes, that would be nice. Now, there is one follow-up question that I'm going to ask. There is a situation with a household on Dishaw Street, or I'm sorry, Adelaide Street, at the corner of Adelaide and Dishaw, where this was the first request I received regarding some vehicles. This is going to take at least a month now. How do we go about allowing these people to continue to park on the arena parking lot and going forward until this is solved?
Mr. Chair, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking.
I guess I would be asking very, very, very simple. Can we allow these people to do that?
Point of order here, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The awkward spot that the staff is in right now is that we have a township bylaw that prohibits parking on municipal property, is that
Correct, yes.
the way the bylaw is prepared?
Yes.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
So, the staff is in a very awkward position here. We can have this discussion now and ask for a report, but in the interim period of time, staff really doesn't have any maneuverability. So I don't think it's fair to say, how can we get around this for that period of time? I think what we're gonna have to do is wait for the report. In the meantime, I mean, I've had the same call as you had, and I think I'm gonna have to go back to those folks and tell them that, from the discussion that I've heard tonight, I feel that the support is weak, but possibly doable over the longer period of time, but that in the shorter period, they're gonna have to try to solve the problem themselves. I'm beginning to see a lot of complexities here. I'd like to give it a try, but I could like to, the staff is in an awkward position here.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate the concern, and I will not ask staff to do anything to my further comment, and I have told the people involved that I would get back to them tomorrow, which I will, with the statement that they're going to have to find alternative parking until this is straightened out. And you'll probably get a phone call too,
Yeah.
so, but I will certainly give them that notice as well. So yes, staff, Mr. CAO, the December meeting would be fine. Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Now we're going to number 7, which is the action information item. And the first one on the list is 7A, which is the Prescott Automatic Aid Agreement. And I believe, Chief Moore, you're going to highlight this for us?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you tonight is the updated agreement with the town of Prescott. On my item, I indicate the updates of note, including modified response area, updated response protocols that limits Prescott response, and greater efficiency by reducing some of the overlap. Council previously had a chance to look at the financial aspect several months ago. The agreement has been executed by the town of Prescott. And my recommendation is that we do the same.
Okay, thank you.
So moved.
Seconded.
I have a mover and I have a seconder. Discussion, if any? Counselor?
Just a great job to the CEO and to the chief, and it's great to see two townships working together, because I think the price is excellent. So job well done. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just,
Go ahead.
sure, I
Get anything there?
think I've said it before, but I just want to echo that to the chief, to the CAO, to Barry, and to Matt. Great job, and anyone else, involved in getting the aid agreement executed. Well done.
Okay, anyone else? I just have one question. Is this reciprocal with Prescott? In other words, are we going to help them when they need it, and they're going to help us when we need it? Is it reciprocal? Or is it strictly one way?
But basically, this agreement is one way. We still have mutual aid with Prescott, and
Oh,
they can
yes.
ask for our help at any time. But
Yes.
as far as an automatic dispatch, I believe we discussed just the area north of the 401 for tankers, if they had a call kind of in the riverside area where they don't have hydrants.
Correct.
But I think that would be the only automatic dispatch of our services to Prescott.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, we have a mover, we have a seconder, and I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Carried, thank you.
Good job, guys.
Okay, so we're now moving on to number 7B, which is the recreation rental rates and fees. Mike, would you highlight this for us, please?
Yes, I would, thank you, Mr. Chair. Typically, this time of year, we, if there are any changes to our fee schedule, we bring it to this committee. What I've done is I've given an outline of the three neighboring communities. Well, Smith Falls is a little bit farther away, but still, in retrospect, it's still within District 1 for hockey. I've given you the rates, and also the bottom of the page, it shows our rates. I'm recommending that we keep our rates as they are, as they stand now for the upcoming season. And just so council is aware, the upcoming season, basically, the new fee, if any fee was going to take effect for hockey, it would take effect for the following season. So if we were to update any of the rates for hockey, they would take effect after March 15th of next year.
Of 2020.
Of 2021.
Okay.
Yes. I just gave a couple suggestions regarding the city of Brockville. They do have a mixed rate for their two arenas. And I just suggested that if council wanted to look at potentially offering a higher rate for the ingredient ice as opposed to Spencerville, that's something that they could look at. On page 2 of the proposal, it also talks about our other programs, fees that we have regarding day camp, swimming lessons, ball diamonds, and I'm not really making any recommendation for a change there, other than to say that I would like to put a fee in for additional cleaning services for our community hall rentals, whether that be upstairs here or at the hall in Johnstown. Currently, right now, we're only renting those facilities up to 2 hours at a time, because anything after 2 hours, we have to supply a cleaning service. And because we don't currently have a bylaw in place to do that, I'm bringing that forward now to indicate that that would be the only added section of the fee schedule bylaw. So the bottom, the recommendations are to maintain the same rates for the 2021 season, and they add the additional $30 for the hall rental rates for when COVID-19 protocols are in place, and then also for council to consider having a new rate for the ingredient center, which would be slightly higher than the rates for the Spencerville Arena.
Okay. The changes in your briefing notes are made in red, so it's easy to pick them out. Any questions, concerns? We do have a recommendation. It's in your briefing package. It's in 3 parts. And Mike has spelled those out. Could I have a mover for the recommendation, please? Councillor Hunter, and could I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Deschamps, thank you. Any other questions or concerns before I call the question?
Yes. I won't support it in its present form, because I'd like to see item 3 removed from the recommendation. The effect of that would be that we leave all of the arena rates the same, both arena rates the same. So I'm wondering if the mover and the seconder would consider removing clause 3.
Councillor Hunter?
I don't really know if it needs to be removed or not, or just that it's something that can be considered at a later date, so.
It takes staff time, though.
We do it until we instruct them to, so it's not gonna take time unless we instruct them to do it, so.
Well, then it doesn't mean anything.
No, that's what I say, it really doesn't mean.
No, well, if it doesn't mean anything, it doesn't need to be there. That's my point.
Doesn't matter to me, we can take it as you want.
Deputy Mayor, I think you were the seconder?
Yeah, I'm fine either way, so if it gets it done, I'm fine with it going out. Mike can always bring back a suggestion for next year. that, argues the reasoning behind, new and higher rates at Ingredient Center, we consider it, so.
I see.
fine with it.
Okay. Councillor Dillabaugh on that remark, remove or leave in number 3?
No, I'm fine, remove it.
Okay. Mr. Packwood?
Out.
Out, and Mr. Bush?
Out, that's fine.
And I'm out, so we will remove number 3 from the recommendation. So the recommendation will only have number 1 and number 2 in it. Do we need to
We gotta
have
move in a
a
second.
friendly amendment on this or anything?
No, it's a friendly amendment, everybody agree.
I will call the question. All in favor? Done. Carried, thank you. And the next item on our agenda is the health and safety policy review, and we do have a recommendation on this. And now, who would like to highlight this? I think I have Dave's name down here, but it might have been a joint.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Just annually, one of the requirements with the Joint Health and Safety Committee is to meet and review the township health and safety policy and procedures. And basically, there are some minor updates that are tracked and highlighted in red. And just looking for committee and council approval of those changes, and the policy and procedures will be updated and then distributed to all the appropriate departments.
Okay, thank you. That's great, and they are in red, and they're in your briefing package. You've had a chance to look at it. Do I have a mover for the?
Just before you do.
Yes, certainly.
So, I don't know, Mr. Chairman, did you want to go through this clause by clause? Or can I just bring an issue forward?
I think you can just bring an issue forward.
Thank you.
If you would, please.
All right, I'm on page 36 of 69. And I have a question for the clerk, through the chair. So on page 36 of 69, I'm looking at clause A, which is the structure of the committee. The Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal has a joint health and safety committee, has a joint health and safety committee, consists of a minimum of 1 representative from. Then it says administration, recreation, library, environmental services, and a minimum of 2 representatives. I think the word should be from Public Works. Now my question is this: the library appointment is not an employee of the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal. The library employee is an employee of the library board. And my question through the chair to the clerk and the CAO is, can that person who is not our employee sit on our health and safety committee? By the way, it's a health and safety committee.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm sure that you emphasize that for a particular reason.
Safety? Health and safety?
Yes.
SAFETY. Just a point thing, but no, the issue is, the issue is the library employee.
So, through the chair, I would need to confirm that. One of the additions of why we included a representative from the library was that they were working within those buildings, and thought that they would have the best input with respect to the regular happenings within that building.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, I see that point, but it's, and I don't know the legalities here, other than to know that from a legal perspective, they are not our employee.
So we will confirm.
Thank you.
Other than that, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any problems with the minor changes to the plan.
Okay. Any other concerns or questions regarding that? Okay, did I get a mover and seconder? I don't think I did. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Mr. Bush moving and Councillor Hunter seconding. Thank you very much. Do we have to put in anywhere that the library member is, we're going to confirm that? Or can we just carry on?
So through the chair, we will confirm that, and if there's a legal item around that, we will remove that in advance of it coming to council on the 23rd.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so the recommendation stands as is. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, just one other point. I'm not gonna go through them here now, and this was Jerry Morel's job. He's not here. But I hope somebody will proofread.
Send it to Jerry?
Well, I hope somebody will.
you'll read it through.
Well, I hope somebody will proofread it, because there's a whole.
Through the chair, I uploaded the incorrect tracked version that captured a number of those typographical errors. My apologies, I had too many documents on the go.
Thank you, thank you for that. Okay, that brings us to 7D, which is the operations, the Edwardsburg Cardinal 2020 MECP inspection report. And this is information only, there is no recommendation. And that will be highlighted by, am I correct, Gord? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On June 16, 2020, an announced focused inspection of the Edwardsburg Cardinal Industrial Park Distribution System was undertaken by Mr. Daniel White, Provincial Officer Inspector for the Ministry of Environment. The inspection examined the compliance and various applicable provincial acts. The attached copy of the inspection summary rating record shows that there was no non-compliances with regulatory requirements noted and no recommended best practices. We received 100% on the inspection.
Okay, thank you. And the briefing note does say exactly that, and it looks very good. Any questions, concerns?
Mr. Chair, the committee note, I think the committee, the minutes should reflect that the committee notes the 100% final inspection ratings and compliments to staff.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us now to 7E, and there is a recommendation here, and this is the Blue Box transition plan.
No, it's not gonna happen, don't believe it.
Oh, I think the date to me looks like 2025.
Let them get the recommendation out first.
After all, yeah. Okay, we do have a recommendation, and I'm just fumbling with my paperwork here, and the recommendation is that committee recommend that council direct staff to prepare and issue a tender in early 2021 for household waste and recycle collection based on option 2 and return to committee with the results. And I'm looking for Gord to highlight this transition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the purpose of this report was basically to review the Blue Box transition proposal and draft legislation and develop path forward with regard to recycling and waste collection. Background is in December 2019, AMO sent a letter requesting municipal councils pass a resolution outlining preferred date to transition municipal Blue Box programs to full producer responsibility, if provided the opportunity to self-determine. The township, Edwardsburg Cardinal, basically passed a resolution that the township would consider transition of its Blue Box program to full producer responsibility by January 2022. Subsequently, after the provinces have reviewed, they have basically set out a schedule for different municipalities, almost it looks to be, basically they're looking at the high population areas to start, rather than going for more choices. So there's a map attached, which basically, or there's a list attached, shows which dates that the different municipalities will be proposed to start the full transition. Edwardsburg Cardinal falls into the 2025 area. If you look at the map, there's kind of a regional approach to how the government is proposing that this transition unfolds between 2023 and 2025. So basically, as I mentioned, the kind of high population areas are starting first. The Ottawa area, looks like Toronto, perhaps in the Windsor area, or up in Sarnia, sorry. And we're in the blue area, so we'll be with the lower population municipalities, I suspect, will be starting in 2025.
Thank you. Do I have a mover?
No, I want to speak to
You want to speak before? Okay, go ahead.
So, I want to just clear up a couple of things here. So the first thing is, we're talking about full producer responsibility for paper, glass, and plastic products, right?
Recyclables, anything in the blue box program now? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so, full producer responsibility. What that means is that the producer is gonna be responsible. What that means, financially responsible.
Correct.
All right, so those producers are still gonna need a collection agency to collect that stuff.
Correct.
All right, we're in the collection business, we have contracts for collection. So, through the chair, I understand where your recommendation is coming from when you're saying in 2021 to issue the tender and separate the two. I think that's a mistake, and I'll tell you why. I think we should go with option one. Enter into negotiations with Waste Connections. They're our collector right now for another 3 years. Get that contract in place. That'll last us until 2025, and we remain the collector. Even after, or as we approach 2025, we will now begin to see by that time how this thing is gonna roll itself out, because there are gonna be other regions that transition before us. My suspicion is that the producers are gonna have to flow cash to the guys that do the collection. I don't think the producers are well enough organized to put out tenders for the collection of this stuff on a regional basis. They're just not that well organized. We are. So let's us remain as the collector, and we will find out as this thing unrolls how it happens. I'm sure that what's gonna happen is the producers are gonna end up paying the collectors. And if we have another 3-year contract in place, we will have established ourselves in the collection business, and that's the time to put out a new contract, in my opinion. Unless you want to put out a new contract in 2022 for a completely new contract for all, both cyclables and non-cyclables. So I'm right now, I'm going with option one in my mind. I'd like to hear some discussion, but just a question, to my mind, the producers are gonna have to pay somebody.
So if I may, just for clarity, right now, we're in the contract administration of collection. We're not in the collection business.
Explain the difference.
Well, we don't actually physically collect at
Oh,
curbside.
okay.
We're the
Okay.
contract admin, right? So
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yes, and that's why option two it still does provide the opportunity to, if that's a direction that council wants to go, that we would still administrate contracts. That's certainly an option.
Well, the only problem is when you put out a contract that separates the two, now you can't have a company like Waste Connections giving you a decent price on your garbage, your household garbage. You know, they can't give you a decent price on that, because you wanted the two things separated. So are they gonna bid on the solid waste, or are they gonna bid on the blue box stuff?
Through the chair, they could certainly bid on both.
No, you wanted them separate. If you go with option two, you want them
So what
separate.
we want is them to submit separate prices for each one.
How can they do that?
Quite simple, right?
I thought it was
So
separated.
as it is right now, the way that I'm understanding it is that, once it goes to full producer responsibility, it will not be one vehicle collecting your solid waste and your recycled material.
Why not?
Well, because of the contamination potential.
But right now, they collect it separately.
That is correct, as of right now, they do. But it's unlikely that they're going to unload the waste part, the waste portion, and then transport the recycled materials to another site. And I don't know how exactly that full composition is going to work right now. But there's certainly nothing to say that it can't be the same contractor that collects the solid waste and the recycling.
Well, I don't see the economies. He's got his truck. I mean, right now, you're getting great economy of scale, because the truck goes down the road and goes into two separate compartments. It's separated. When it gets to its depot, it's unloaded separately, and we take the advantage of that. I'd like to keep that advantage. I don't want two trucks coming down my street. Even if the producers are paying for one of those trucks, I'm gonna be paying full cost for the truck that's just picking up my household waste. I'm paying full cost for that. And I'm getting none of the advantages that the contractor builds in, because he's taking some revenue, even if it's only a nickel or a dime, he's taking some revenue out of that blue box stream. Even if it's only a nickel or a dime, and I'm getting the advantage of that.
Go ahead, Counselor.
Well, I see where they're coming with separating it, but I have a different opinion of it. I have the opinion that I would go with number one and just extend the contract for the 3 years where they're picking up both until we get to 2025, but it's not on the point of economics of having one truck going down the road. I think it's on the point of the economics of, no, we're not a waste collector right now, but depending on what money they're willing to pay for this collection, we might be interested in being a waste collection. And as far as the economics of the truck, I said, 2 trucks going down there, yeah, there maybe be, but they're gonna be more economical for a contractor to just be picking up waste. Because when they just pick up waste, that truck can carry a lot more waste, because it can compact it. The recyclable material isn't compacted. It's gotta be in a separate bin, and it takes up a lot of bulk in there because it's not separated out much. Where once you get to a producer responsibility for the paying for the recyclables, that truck's going to be going around similar to the trucks in Alberta. And they're gonna be separated into 3 or 4 different bins in that truck, and when they throw it in glass, it's gonna go in one bin, it's gonna be crushed. They can put a lot of it in, paper's gonna go in another bin. bin, and it's gonna be packed, and all your tin and stuff will be going out of there. It's a lot more work for the residents, because they gotta separate that out. They can't just throw it all in one big bin, it's gotta be all separated. We're very strict on their separations out there, and they make money. They're one of the few provinces that are on a break even pretty near on their garbage, because they have a charge for the producers out there have to pay so much in every container. If you buy a case of, anybody been out there bought a case of pop, you know what it is. A case of pop out there is about $5 dearer than it is here, because you pay a levy on that recycling charge.
That's correct.
On it, so I like just extending for the 3 years, try to negotiate a deal with them for 3 years and see where we sit. There might be an opportunity here for the township to have maybe another couple of employees and actually make money with doing it. If not, we can always contract it back out and let it go another way, but I'd like to see where we're gonna head first before we start going. If we go 5 years and 3, where all of a sudden we're stuck into, we're giving the waste to somebody, he's got 2 more years, and now there's 2 years in there, we're trying to cross tender, or maybe do it ourselves or something. I think we're stuck trying to work something in between 2 different things, rather than just waiting, and the mayor suggests wait till the end and we see what we come. We're pretty satisfied with this contract we've got, so see if we can't negotiate another 3-year term. And
So are you saying go with option 1 or 2?
I'd say go with option 1.
Okay. Any other, Councillor Dillabaugh, option 1 or option 2?
No, it makes a lot of sense what the mayor and Councillor Hunter said, and maybe we can become in business, collect our own. So,
Thank you.
yeah, no, I'll go along with that.
Mr. Packwood?
Same
Mr.
thing.
Bush?
One.
And I'm number 1, so it looks like option number 1 would be the preferred method of going. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I thought he nodded his head.
I was nodding as
You
well.
were,
I'm
yeah.
actually okay with either. But one thing that's been raised that certainly was on my notes, or in my notes and on the radar, is, you know, the potential for revenue generation. Yeah, I read some of the service, the SDR for Augusta, and it's certainly on their radar as a revenue generator as well. And I just see that there's a great potential with the changes moving forward, that it could be possible. So whichever one of these 2 is best, I'm fine for it. Seems to be number 1 around the table, but if that's the case, I'm fine with that. Fence sitter today.
Okay, staff, are we okay with going with number 1 instead of number 2?
So, Mr. Chair, that's not a staff decision, so if committee, Mr. Chair, if you can find yourself a mover and a seconder for replacing option 2 with option 1.
May I ask that question in a different sense then? Do we need an amendment to change the option from number 1, or number 2 to number 1?
Mr. Chair, do you have a mover and a seconder?
Well, yes, we haven't got that yet.
No, so I think you can just, you could change the recommendation to option 1 and have a mover and a seconder and vote on that.
Okay, there's no more wordsmithing other than option 1.
You can't change the recommendation and put 1 in place of 2.
You can't? I
No,
thought that-
because if you,
Oh, sorry, okay.
okay, the recommendation can be that council enter into negotiations and just use the words from number 1. But you can't take the words that are in the recommendation and just take out option 2, put in option 1.
Correct.
Oh, okay,
It's getting too late in the evening,
it is,
apologies.
and it's not even 8:45 yet,
That's right.
so,
So let's just use the wording that's on the page
yes.
for option 1. Council recommend that, and go on from there.
Committee
Recommends
that council direct staff to prepare and issue a tender No? Okay, I need some
Why
help.
don't we just ask Rebecca to read some of that?
So,
For the clerks.
an idea would be that committee recommends that council direct staff to enter into negotiations with Waste Connections to extend the current contract for another 3 years. And then you can also include, as the 2025 approaches, tender could be issued, or just leave that part.
Just leave that part.
Just leave
Leave
it.
that out, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll move that.
Okay, I have a mover with Deputy Mayor Deschamps. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Hunter? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Rebecca, that's carried. All right, moving on, we will go to 7F, which is the industrial park water and wastewater flows. This is an information item only. And Mr. Shaw, would you highlight this, please?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an action item. Oops. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Basically, an information item just to provide a committee with some of the industrial sewage flows and the water consumption, potable water consumption. Purpose to review their industrial park potable water and wastewater actual flows versus purchased capacity. Industrial park sewage is collected by 36-inch asbestos cement trunk and combined with sewage from Township of Prescott and conveyed to Prescott Sewage Treatment Plant located off Commerce Drive in Edgeworth Cardinal. By agreement under bylaw 2014-25, EC purchases 472.8 meters cubed per day of Prescott water pollution control plant capacity for the EC Industrial Park. The industrial park potable water supply is supplied by Prescott through 18-inch ductile iron water main that travels down County Road 2, captures New Wexford, Giant Tiger Boulevard, and Commerce Drive. This is the standalone distribution system. Bylaw 2016-94, EC purchases a capacity of 6,000 meters cubed per month of potable water for the industrial park distribution system. The attached graph illustrates the monthly flows for both systems compared to purchase capacity from the beginning of 2018 to present. If you look at the graphs, it seems like everything is relatively consistent.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shaw. Questions for Mr. Shaw? Hearing none, we'll move on.
Just a point. So from the sewer point of view, we purchased 14,184 cubic meters per month. And as you can see, in 2018, we only used 6,750 average per month. In 2019, we used 6,300. So we have about 8,000 cubic meters per month spare capacity that we already own. From a water point of view, we purchased 6,000 cubic meters per month. We're using about 3,700, 2018 average per month, 3,400 average per month in 2019. Hard to say what 2020 will look like, but again, we have a little over 2,000 cubic meters per month spare capacity water. So, my point is that I think these two charts indicate that at least we have something to deal with as far as the job site challenge is concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good points. Any other points or concerns? Thank you, Mr. Shaw. We'll now move on to 7G, which is the low lift pumping station, the 2021 draft budget, and you have it in your briefing note. There is a recommendation here, by the way, and the recommendation reads that committee recommends that council approve the 2021 raw water supply system, in brackets LLPS, budgeted as presented.
I'd like to move that motion.
I have a mover, do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor, thank you. All right, any discussion before I call the question?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say this. So this agreement was negotiated way back in 2808. It's served us well. We supply Greenfield with this draft budget every year in September. They never question it. They pay the full amount of the system. And you can see that in 2021, the budgeted amount is $103,490. They'll pay us that. Out of that, $20,000 will go automatically into the reserve account for that system. And then if there is any excess revenue over the expenditures, that will also go into the reserve account. So Greenfield has lived up to their commitment, and the commitment has served us well over these past, 12 years.
Mr. Chair, may I ask too, what happens if we go over, we have a big expense, unnecessary expense, do they pick that up too?
No, they live with the budget.
So
And we live
if
with the
have-
budget.
So if we have something at 150,000, we come in 150,000?
That's what the reserve is for.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
But the reserve also has a larger purpose, which
Yeah.
is the replacement of the system.
That's right.
But, and perhaps, Mr. Chair, Mr. Shaw might want to say something about that, because I don't think we've ever gone over the budget on this.
Not that I'm aware of. I think most of the times we've done pretty well, and there's been extra transferred into reserves, if anything. I think the reserve's pretty healthy. I don't have the figure with me at this time, but there's a healthy reserve, I believe, with that system.
And just through the chair, just one other question for Mr. Shaw. My understand the only working component to this system, mechanical component, is the 2 or 3 pumps that are in the wet well that pump up into the pipeline. I don't think there's any other working components, are there?
Other than the injection system for chlorine.
Oh, yes, at
We
the
feed
far end of
chlorine,
the
yeah.
pipe.
Yeah, aside from that, most of it's in the plant, and it's based, the plant runs the pumps, there's 2 pumps. There's a 3rd spot for another pump, should their expansion be desired. Yeah, just working with the 2 one lead, 1 lag pump, and based on the level of their tower, determines when the pumps come on and so forth.
Okay, now, the pumps themselves, we haven't talked about this for a long time, if I may,
Go
Mr. Chair.
ahead.
The pumps themselves are now 12 years old. What is the lifespan of those pumps? They're very expensive.
They're flight pumps, they're very good pumps. I'm not sure what the exact life expectancy would be. I know even in the sewage end, which is a much more harsh environment, in Cardinal, the pumps are flight pumps, and we rarely ever need to pull one of them. Most of the time, it's a mechanical thing, something gets jammed in them or something, but we've gone years and years in Cardinal without replacing pumps, just because flights are highly reliable. And with the water, less harsh environment, I would guesstimate probably 20, 30 years anyway, if not more.
Oh, well, and what would the replacement cost on one of those pumps be?
We just checked that out, just look in the future. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I believe it was, they're fairly expensive pumps. I would have to come back with that information.
Thanks very much.
Okay, I have a mover and I have a seconder, all in favor?
Aye.
And it's carried, thank you. And that brings us to 7H, which is the last item on the information items, or action information items, and that is the RMP road construction and surface programming. There's no recommendation here, this is strictly an information item. And who is going to speak to this, Mr. Shaw or Mr. Guest? Certainly.
What's RMP?
RMP is Road Maintenance Program.
Road maintenance program, short form everybody's using. This is a,
Road management plan, right?
road management plan, oh, sorry,
My
yes.
apologies.
I'm sorry.
Road management plan.
Management.
Yep, so we'll spell that out from now on. At the October 19th meeting, Public Works, Environmental Services, and Facilities Committee meeting, we went through the process of updating our 2016 road maintenance plan, road management plan, sorry. We go now. And we presented it to council. At that time, we said we'd be coming back with some further information to finalize the report, or the update report, and start working on meshing together some of our programs that will run over the next few years, resurfacing, reconstruction, etc. So we're certainly working on the 2021 roads program, because we're trying to get that ready for budget. And we certainly have the information here tonight as the options are available for the 2021 program, in particular the resurfacing program, and further discussion on some of the roads that have been brought up in discussions in the past, like Totem Ranch, the petition there, Middle Street, Cedar Grove, road folk reconstruction, etc. So on that, I'd like to just point out a few little things here. So the program that we brought forward so far, tonight is more of a discussion than information. We want your input. We're trying to finalize this 21, but it also helps us with 20, 22, 23, 24 years. And so took a little bit of a different approach tonight. We've got our program at the top, and then I got a number of roads at the bottom that I called the pick ones, the ones that from my four eyes, rating the roads and seeing, driving them all the time, I've come up with these roads that for different reasons, they may not rate high. For instance, Edison doesn't rate high, but it's in for a shave and pave, as we call it. So we'll shave off 40 mils or 50 mils of asphalt, which there's 2 lifts on this road. So there's 100 mils of asphalt on this road. And we'll shave off half of it and replace it. The road itself, except for right at the corner where the salt trucks turn out, is in really good shape. It's got the crossfall is fine. It's just losing its top lift at this point. Another example would be Rooney Road over at south of 44 to the MTO yard, and how badly out of shape that is, and that's a full remove asphalt, base repairs, and replace gravel, and obviously the asphalt on that as well. So I open it up to discussions at this point. I think I've covered everything. Totem Ranch, that is a fairly large project, expensive project, because of the nature of the base there. The base would have to all be removed and replaced, and a lot of drainage work in that area. And then the type of surface would I would think have major discussion between the two municipalities. It is a boundary road, so we have weren't able to get a hold of the engineer at North Grenville because she's on holidays right now. All right, I think she just backed in. Anyways, Mr. Chair, that's what I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Guest. So the upper chart on page 69,
Yep.
the upper chart is already been decided.
No.
No, definitely not.
Oh, okay,
It's our proposal.
all right. Okay, so then what is the lower chart, just an additions?
Wanna go do?
Yeah, so if I may, Mr. Chair, the feeling based on circumstances with 2021 will be a tough year in a lot of decisions. So what we would like to try to get a vibe for is sort of a level of a roads program that can be brought forth for committee discussion. Certainly not a pre-approval of any sort, but just understanding, is a road program of around 300,000 to 400,000 a starting point? Are you looking for a 500,000 to 600,000 starting point for discussion? And taking into account that at the admin and finance meeting, there was some budget priorities that spoke to an extensive or expanding roads program. There was mention of some roads in Spencerville, and we've at least tried to incorporate the starting point of that within this first glance.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, did you want in here?
Well, we're gonna wait and see if somebody else would jump in,
Well, then I'll
but I
start.
got a whole bunch of comments.
Okay, then I'll start with Mr. Bush. Any comments or concerns at this time?
No, not right off the bat, no.
Mr. Packwood?
I didn't bring my glasses.
Shame on you.
You need them for this.
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll have a comment, well,
Counselor Hunter?
Well, I made the comment last time, I see we got a little bit on here to do a little bit of work on David Street there. There's no point in doing work on those streets unless we come into Spencerville, and correct the stormwater and stuff along David and Irving and South Street and Cedar Street there when we do it. With the amount of trouble we've had in Spencerville with drainage and water and stuff, I think we need to do a major concentration on that street this year and try and rectify some of the storm drainage problem along there and correct the pavement in there. Anybody who drives down around Cedar Street and around by there, you see what terrible shape those roads are in. There hasn't been any paving done here in Spencerville for the last 8 years. I think Spencerville deserves a little corrections down here.
So that total that we have here, which I believe it says 30,000.
Yeah.
If I could, Mr. Chair, interject there, 30,000 would be to actually come in, and I've made the note to the right here on the notes that we need to find the outlet. There's several options available to us. We've done some work on the outlet that would go down and out through the east end of Charles Street and over towards the mill. Or there's the other option of going out David and Irving and then going down South Street. So that 30,000 is to find out how we can drain this, because that's the, I don't wanna put the cart or suggest that we're suggesting put the cart before the horse here, because if you don't have an outlet, you run into a lot of problems. And then the following year, in the original program, that's been updated, we were gonna still do some work in the Spencerville area, including, any storm sewer work that would have to be done in advance of paving these streets. So, that's,
So 30,000 is just to find an outlet.
find an outlet, gotta do the survey work, we've got some survey work done already. But there's just too many ways that we can get this wrong, in my book. And I think we really wanna get the outlet and find out, we've gotta be below the dam, is essentially, dam at the mill. We've gotta be below the dam with our outlet, and not, there's 2 or 3 routes we can choose. What's the least offensive route, what's the most cost-effective route, and that work starts with surveying and engineering to determine it. So that, to Councillor Hunter's point, we wanna get this right, and that's what we put in for, to make sure that we have the backup surveys and everything that supports that outlet, or the direction we go for that.
I think we should be able to accomplish more than just find an outlet in a year.
Can I interject here?
You go ahead.
So I really don't have any problem with the $30,000 for David Street, but and that's for engineering. But I quite agree with Councillor Hunter, 30,000 should get us a lot more than finding an outlet. At the United Counties, we do the engineering this year, and the contract goes out next year. But the engineering that we do this year is complete. It's all of the technical, all of the base work, and the engineering contractor that we hired to do the contract also supplies the tender document that goes out the next year. Because they do all the planning, they prepare the tender document. And that forms the basis of the next year's work plan. So I don't have any problem with that, but I don't know where the 30,000 came from, because that's more than, 30,000 is more than just surveying and finding an outlet, that's for sure. So if that's the plan, that you're gonna do a complete engineering and end up with a bid, a tender bid, then I'm all in favor of that. And I think that that's the right section of this town to do. I'd like to jump in, after we get off this topic, I'd like to jump in on some of the others.
I just want to go to Deputy Mayor Deschamps for his concerns at the moment.
I find this a very interesting approach, and I feel like I'm suddenly being asked to become a roads expert, and I can assure you, both of you, or everyone, that I'm certainly not that. You know, I make decisions based on, you know, the expertise that you bring to the table, but I don't wanna stand here and try to decide, engineer this and do that. It doesn't put me in a very comfortable position.
So, through, Mr. Chair, what we're looking for is an approximate dollar value that you would like us to be coming forth with for the 2021 capital roads program. What we're kind of indicating is right now, we have it at about 360,000 that we would be bringing forward in that capital for 2021 capital. These are these are the roads. Do you want to start the budget process at 360,000, or is there some additional roads that you at least want to look at in that first blush of the budget?
Yeah, okay, thanks for the clarification on that.
That's
That
all,
helps
yeah,
me, that helps me in my mindset, agree.
No, that's what we wanna have, there's no sense of coming in with a $1.4 million road budget,
Sure,
right?
but if I continue? So for me, again, I think I'll go back to the same comment I made last time, and a lot of the roads budget from my perspective is going to come down to, you know, the position we find ourselves in at the end of this year. If this year we are in a very robust position where we can continue to increase the program without a huge tax increase, then great. But if we're like last year where we find ourselves in a considerable hole, then, you know, I think we're gonna have to sit and have more were difficult discussions, but I think until I have that information, I don't, you know, that's like for me saying, well, you can start with a 1.4, but if we find ourselves 700 in the hole to begin with, then you know, what good is the 1.4? So, you know, actually have a number, and 360, I guess, works for me as a good starting.
Anything else?
I'll leave it at that for now.
I'm just, Mr. Mayor, I know you have some issues to bring up, so I'm just gonna go to Councilor Dillabaugh to start. Councilor Dillabaugh.
I'm, now that I understand it too, I'm glad that, you know, how much and so on, but I'm good with, your 2021 that you have, but I would like to also, I know I'm shooting for the stars, but I throw Edison in there too at 100,000, so I'm looking at about 460,000 from my budget this year.
I have one more comment.
Okay.
The mayor will probably
Keep it
but
short.
I missed it.
Okay, you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
fine,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to Deputy Mayor, go ahead, get it in.
The only thing, the one that I missed, and, you know, we're looking at ones to consider for next year with job site challenge. Cedar Grove certainly is, you know, could be a bigger challenge than what we have written there, I think, depending upon what the investment level that would be required for the type of traffic that would be going over it. So making a huge investment into Cedar Grove Road, well, it definitely needs something, but to only dig that up in another year and have to redo it again at a better standard would you know, concern me, so that's my only.
Okay, okay, Mr. Mayor?
So, I was gonna go to Cedar Grove as well. I don't wanna spend a penny on Cedar Grove Road until I know what we're dealing with from the job site challenge. I mean, if the job site challenge comes through, we need a whole completely different standard than this would even get us started. So I don't wanna spend a penny on that. Ann Street, I'm not sure where Ann Street is.
Ann Street's in Cardinal, and it would be off Shanley Road, first road coming south from.
Going north, it's the last road on your left.
That way too.
Left.
There's Hoy Street where the new.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one north is
Okay.
Ann Street going west.
Okay, all right, so I understand that one, I know that's bad. All right, so then I come down and I look at Judy Place. Now, we didn't do Judy Place this year, and I'm kind of thankful that we didn't. First of all, Judy Place doesn't get a heck of a lot of travel, and it certainly doesn't get any heavy trucks. And I don't understand why we wouldn't be looking at reclamite on that street. I think I don't understand it, and, but yet, because this calls for pulverize, add gravel, and add 50 millimeters of HL4. But that's the standard that I would use on County Road 2, but I sure wouldn't use that standard on a place like Judy Place. So I'm just having a little bit of trouble with that standard in that location. Now, I know that had we done it this year, maybe it would have slipped in. And that's what was called for this year, but, you know, anyway, so I have a problem with Judy Place. Now I'm looking at the others on the bottom of the list here. Edison Drive, it's 400 meters. So is that 400 meters from County Road 2 north?
Correct.
Okay, so that's the last 400 meters before they come out onto County Road 2.
Yep.
That's
Yep, up to
$100
the
grand.
curb.
That's, sorry?
It'd be up to the curb in the road.
Up to the curb
Top
in
of
the
the
road.
hill.
Yeah, top of the hill.
Okay, all right. And then Rooney now is 450 meters. And what 450 meter section is that?
That's the one from Angelo's,
Angelo's South.
south to the MTO yards.
That get that much, does that get $168,000 worth of traffic on it?
The trucks alone in front of Angelo's are the biggest problem. And the county last year redid their intersection from 44 out to 16. And, they've widened out the
That's right.
the curbs there, remember?
Yep, yep,
And,
yep.
So, just a quick comment on, Cedar Grove and, Judy Place. This doesn't mean that we're going to do that treatment. I mean, we can look at other treatments, so there's some good comments there. On Cedar Grove, that's the section of Cedar Grove we wanna pave, which is from 16 into the 416, which no matter what we do, we're never gonna change those flyovers. There's no more rooms for any lanes or widening lanes through there. It would be the standard road section that we would build through there because.
From 16 to where?
To the flyovers, the flyovers being the 416 flyovers, so the northbound flyover,
The Cloverleaf.
well, no, they're bridges,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
they call them
yeah, yeah.
flyovers.
Okay, but that's 1,200 meters,
Yeah,
and that's the two curves and down that hill and across the swamp.
yeah, well, that actually goes to Fraser, I'm trying to.
Yeah,
get the-
Fraser.
Fraser, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
my question is though, you're gonna pulverize, add gravel and pave 50 millimeters of HL4.
Right.
And my point is, would you spend that kind of money without knowing what your base is, and considering the fact that that may end up being the main entrance into the job site challenge?
Maybe, and if we're running in,
That width would never satisfy.
well, the width would be,
The width of that road would never satisfy them. That road would need a whole new.
6'8", that's a standard, county road width.
Yeah, but is a standard county road width gonna be what we need to access, that kind of traffic into an automobile manufacturing plant?
Yes,
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, like tonight, we're certainly not deciding if that's gonna go forward or not. It's just whether that's on the list for discussion. And we're probably not going to get too deep into the 2021 capital until
But
January.
my point is, why spend a penny when you don't know that it's going to be a penny that you can build on later?
Correct, but we have some time before we have to decide if we're going to spend a penny or not.
Well, let's look elsewhere while we're spending the time.
that's fair.
Now, going to your bottom there, you got Commerce Drive, 600 meters there. Where's that 600 meters?
That 600 meters takes you from 2 all the way up,
To the curve.
well, just short of the curve.
Well, just, so that's a complete rebuild of that section.
Yep.
Where's First Street?
First Street?
Yeah.
From the village of Cardinal.
That would be in Cardinal, just
Yeah,
north of
Shanley
Perry.
Road and Walker
Shanley
Street.
Road.
It would be
Yeah.
the first, street south of Gill Street.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of the last ones in that
Yeah,
area.
and then the other is Legion Way. I wish we could do something with Legion Way, that's for sure.
Well, that's why they're on the list, is we've also heard those things as well. We've heard this discussion, and we know there's lots of places in the township that we could be putting our capital money to, but these are the ones we hear a lot, and they rate, so they warrant the work, and from a rating point of view, so that's why they're on the list.
And so did the man from Middle Street.
Middle Street's another story.
Hey? What's the story with Middle Street?
Well, Middle Street has underground that needs to be done, much bigger project.
Oh, does it really?
Yes, and Reed Street was on here before too. You know, that section that moves back up?
Yes, yes.
It's terrible, but we have services, I shouldn't say terrible, it needs work, okay? But we have service connections that are the old unapproved plastic service connection.
The whole of Middle Street?
No, I'm talking, this is Reed Street.
This is Reed Street.
Okay, tell me about Middle Street.
But
Middle
Reed
Street, I
Reed
have to
Street-
defer to to board to exactly know what's under there.
Yeah, Middle Street still has ductile iron water main in it.
Yeah,
So the lifespan of that is probably reaching
yeah,
its limit
yeah.
and should be replaced. And along with the sewer, which could be relined, but I'm pretty certain that's clay in there.
And with
in
storm
that
sewer
street.
pipe in there.
So, and storm sewer definitely needs work
That
also.
answers your buddy on
You're,
that.
you're basically looking at like a Walker Street
Yeah.
kind of project.
Yeah.
Sure.
Where it's full underground infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yep,
No doubt that we certainly agree that the Middle Street, the road condition is poor,
yeah.
but it probably doesn't warrant, you know.
So help me out here, just so that I understand the nature of this and the length of this, or the depth of this problem. Middle Street is north-south, and so that's full, that's gonna need a full reconstruction. The next one east of it is called East Street,
Same.
same thing?
All that section down below, there's a lot of ductile iron
Yeah.
water main.
Same with Victoria Street?
Yeah, oh yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
All three of them have to be redone.
So East Street, yeah, East Street has the water line done, so it's possible to look at a reline on the sanitary sewer side on East Street, but Middle and Victoria, yeah, they're full reconstruction.
Yeah.
Okay, so through the chair to the CAO again. So I think, wasn't this year's program about 1 point something million for roads? What do we spend on roads this year, on our roads capital project?
No, certain, I do not believe that.
It was under a million.
No,
Eh?
I don't believe it was in the 1 million.
No?
range, no.
750 rings a bell, but I could be wrong.
Okay, so you're thinking that, is your treasurer telling us that we're gonna be in the $500,000 range?
So through the chair, the CAO is attempting to bring in the first draft at a reasonable starting point, along with the treasurer and the senior management team. So that, instead of bringing in a large number, what we wanna do is try to get it in. If you wanna start with certainly an 800,000 or $1 million roads program, we can bring that in as a starting point.
Well, no.
I just don't, I think I'd rather.
No, I agree with, I'm just going with what Deputy Mayor, the point that Deputy Mayor Deschamps is making, and, I mean, these are the kind of discussions that I wanna have again, for sure, but I find them a lot, well, I mean, let's face it, I don't have much trouble with my red pen here, taking out about the three that I already talked about and putting the money elsewhere. Because I think those three, well, Cedar Grove for one, I think that one is, I just wouldn't spend the money there. I wouldn't spend the money on Judy Place, so give me 500 grand to look at and break it up the way this is broken up, and it's easy discussion.
So where would you like to see us?
Hmm?
Where?
Well, no, hey, listen.
Because we've got.
Yeah, but with all due respect, Mr. Chairman, I thought we got away from a lot of that when we went to an asset management plan.
So,
And I know that the asset management plan needs to have some massaging, but what does the asset management plan tell us? Are these straight from the asset management plan?
so they would certainly be the highest priorities within the asset management plan. So, but, you know, if you're looking that way, if you recall last year that we deferred approximately about $1 million worth of work from the asset management plan.
Yeah.
Right? So I guess what I'm saying is that we realize that, there's not much sense of bringing in, the million that was deferred plus what's due this year, and, right? I guess that's really what we're trying to get away from, instead of like coming in and saying, well, we're looking at, if you wanna do all of this, we're looking at 20% tax levy. right? That's not what we wanna do. What we wanna do is try to bring it in at a reasonable starting point that will allow for, you know, potentially an addition here or a subtraction there. Right, to get you in a reasonable starting point, so we don't spend a meeting shifting a whole bunch of deferrals, and then our second meeting is actually starting to get down to business. I thought it would be more effective and efficient to start at a reasonable point.
Mr. Packwood wants to get in, I'd like to get him in here.
The last two, Legion Way. Legion Way is one of the crown jewels in this township. And it's like a boar's nest. That pavement should be fixed down there. I've seen people down there with wheelchairs and walkers, and they have a hell of a time walking around. I'm sorry if I'm a little rough, but it should be fixed.
Yeah.
And the lawns down there, there's craters down there, you can lose a body. And there's guys that mow over it, and you can see where they hit the stumps and the rocks all the time. So, maybe $400 or $500 for the topsoil full of ruts, but it's a beautiful place, there's a lot of people there. We go there 2-3 times a week.
Yeah.
And it should be a high priority.
Yeah, especially with the new boat ramps and.
Oh, yeah.
All the work that we're doing.
And the people that come.
Well, with the amount of people that were there this summer.
Yeah, for sure.
It was astonishing,
Yeah.
really. Now, while we're on the subject of Legion Way, I'd just like to, we're talking right from the top of the hill, down the hill, and the parking lot, is that
No,
correct?
No,
What
we're
are we
going
talking?
from the bridge over the canal, which is, okay, from there, south into the intersection where you can go to the water plant, or launch ramp, launch ramp, water plant, and to the, out towards the canteen, and just in front of the parking lot there.
And clean up the mess in the parking lot.
The parking lots, it can be done, it has to be costed in here, but from my expertise, is you're gonna have to take a lot of that out.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so
We're not
there's
gonna do
danger
half
of
the
repair.
job.
No, I wasn't suggesting we were, I'm just saying that there's a lot of work to do, and that's a big parking lot.
That's
So-
not included in this 18,000.
No, sir.
So, from the top of the hill down to the
23.
parking lot, that's not included.
From the top of the hill down to the bridge over the canal is not included. Okay?
Wow.
It can be included.
That's one,
but-
actually, that's one of the bad areas.
Yeah,
Try and get a wheelchair down there.
Yeah.
so,
And I've seen the people struggle with it.
Through the chair, but it's also another, one of those items that we have to consider, that
Right.
if you're going to be looking at, any kind of major, waterfront improvements, you certainly don't want to pave the main road down and then put all kinds of equipment
Good point.
over it to, right, build up those phases, and then it's went to waste. So
Yeah.
there's some other thoughts that need to be considered in that. So, more or less, it was just based on the asset management plan, what kind of dollar value are you looking at as a first glance at the 2021 capital budget? I guess is
Well, we've had a first glance.
So we take Cedar Grove.
I have a question through the chair too.
Yes, sir.
Talking about the parking lot, who really owns that parking lot? Is that Legion's parking lot or township parking lot?
Township.
I understand it's a township.
Township.
Well, we've seen the drawings.
Well,
I think their boundary is 6 or 8 feet from their east wall. Yeah. That's what it looks like on the drawings.
Okay, any more comments or questions? Will we move on, because we've got half an hour for a regular meeting time? So I would like to move on if there's no other questions. Thank you, Mr. Guest.
You're welcome.
If I may, Mr. Chair, so is the general feeling that we come in roughly with the same amount that we actually approved in the 2020 budget as a starting point?
What was that number?
I want to say it was like 700, 650?
You wanna know? Sure.
By the sounds of things, I mean, I didn't realize that Middle Street East and Victoria were in that bad a shape underneath. But by the sound of things, I mean, we're looking at, what do we spend on Walker?
I want to say it was about 1.2 million.
What was the total meterage on Walker compared to the meterage on Victoria, Middle and East? Would it be roughly the same magnitude of project?
I would say Victoria would be almost identical to Walker Street if you're taking the upper and lower, if you're taking the upper and lower ends.
Yeah.
Middle Street would be probably a little bit shorter, not much though, right? Because you've got down to James right in the middle as well.
Yeah, you stop at James where on Victoria you go further south and further north. Okay.
Man, oh man, oh man, when you look at the township, you could put 30 million on these roads.
Underneath too, you mean.
And you still have lots to do.
Through the chair, that,
You still wouldn't
yes,
cover
you're correct.
Yeah.
And
That's a 200-year-old town for you. Okay, we're going to move on. Thank you all. And we now are at number 8, council inquiries and notices of motion. Do we have any? Councilor Dillabaugh.
Yeah, I do, thank you, to the chair. I asked it going, I had some complaints, Mr. Mayor's not gonna like this, but reducing the speed limit on Breathsville Road and on Crystal Rock. Different people I asked to be brought up on the discussion item tonight, and it wasn't, so for the record, I just want people to know that I will bring it back up, Public Works, in December.
Okay, thank you. And I did discuss your email with staff, and staff felt that because we had 4 items for discussion tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're good on that. Mr. Mayor, do you have a report tonight?
Just a quick one. So CIO and I met again on a Zoom conference with Infrastructure Ontario again today. We had South Nation with us. And everybody's aware, and everybody had a copy of the letter from Alt that we had sent to Infrastructure Ontario. So basically, we reinforced with them today that their standard offer, their standard template that they use when they're divesting property is just not gonna work in this case. And we're meeting again with them on the 30th. They're going to determine if any kind of flexibility they have. And in the meantime, the job site challenge, I think everybody had a copy of the final draft of the questionnaire, did they, Mr. Grant?
Through the chair, Mr. Mayor, I did not distribute that final copy to.
Okay, but it's available.
Yeah, but I will.
And so that long questionnaire has now gone through 3 iterations. And so on Friday afternoon, the CAO and I reviewed the last iteration coming from Novatech, and it was submitted to meet the deadline on Friday afternoon. So so that everybody is aware, is that questionnaire becomes the first phase of several phases of project evaluation. So all of submissions were required to complete that same questionnaire. There will be 2 or 3 other phases to the evaluations. The second and third phases haven't been announced yet. But one of the things that we do know is that the province has hired an international site selector to help them evaluate these projects. And as part of the evaluation, once he goes through those questionnaires with a view to getting from 19 or 18 submissions down to around 10 or 8, he will then visit all of those shortlisted ones, and then as a result of those visits, there will be another phase. So the process is gonna take a long time unfolding, and we're not sure how long it's gonna take. Interesting to note that Minister Fideli is gonna be speaking at the Economic Development Conference on Friday next week.
That's correct.
And although that job site challenge is not his specific file belongs to Minister Sarkaria, he may or may not refer to it in his speech. We'll have to listen very closely and see what, if any, hints he gives us.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you for that, and we'll move on to number 10, which is question period. And as usual, we give the press the first opportunity.
Thank you. With regard to County Road 21 and the speed limit, when was it dropped to 250?
A year ago?
Yeah.
Approximately a year ago?
I don't think it was 2 years.
No.
We've
This
only been
time
on
last year.
council 2 years here. It was about a year.
Okay. And I'm familiar with a lot of the roads in the township, but where is Judy Place?
Right off Hudson Crescent.
Which is off Blair Road, south
Blair
of
Road.
number 2 highway.
Blair Road, I know, thank you.
Yeah. It's at the end of one of those crescents there.
Oh, okay. Thank you, that's all.
Okay, fine. I see no other hands up or questions, so we'll move along. We have no closed session tonight. So the next item I have here is adjournment. Do we have a? No. No, Mr. Packard, were you second?
Yeah, sure.
Good. I have a mover and a seconder. All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned at 9:37.